getting old. Static hums, the wires ignite. Truth's a bomb, we're ready to fight. This is some bullshit. We see through it. This is some bullshit. Can't undo it. Say it loud. We won't quit. This is some bullshit.
Bullshit!
Now, you sexy butthole, get out of your cell.
Oh God, that's all I need.
Well, stupid, are you ready?
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. Beg your pardon. I was very busy doing a bunch of stuff. You probably shouldn't have heard that anyways. All right. Welcome to the show. Glad you could be here. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/HalSparks, Venmo, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So normally, you guys know, let's give it up right away, if we may, for Andrea for dealing with the nutty ones, and Carl as well. He does his due diligence every so often. And then, of course, CSL, who goes out and digs up stuff for me to watch that I haven't already seen on the show, so that my reactions are natural and are spontaneous. So you don't think that I'm like created this kind of dunk fest for people. But today I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I don't know how long this part of it will take, but I started watching the whole Dave Smith on Joe Rogan podcast, which is 2 hours and 53 fucking minutes. And I didn't get all the way through it. I got through like 2 hours of it, and I was literally like tapping out like, what the ever-loving shit. So I recognized, remember what I used to do with the Trump rallies? They'd be about 90 minutes or whatever, and it would take me like 4 or 5 hours to debunk the whole thing because there was so many lies stacked back to back. Okay? That it was just like, it just took forever, right? Well, this one would take a fucking day and a half. But as I was watching it, I went through and I took notes. Hello. And in taking notes, I had little like timestamps on it. Now, they're not perfect because most of them are like in the middle of me going, what the fuck? So in this particular case, let me see if I can take this, and I want to go to here, bold, make them a little bigger so I can see them better. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. It is nearly impossible to break down the absolute cavalcade, the avalanche of unmitigated horseshit coming out of Dave Smith's butthole that apparently the Lord chose to put under his nose, and the shockingly missing normal facts that Joe Rogan, who has this multi-million-dollar fucking podcast that's everywhere and is like the news source for everybody, the regular details he doesn't have a grip on in the middle of all these conversations, like shit, like I couldn't even possibly get to. That he was like, who was in that? What was the name of that? All the President's Men? Yeah, and what was the actor that played, not Bernstein, but the other guy? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, Again, all you weed advocates, he's fucking wrecking your buzz. And it's amazing. Okay, so I don't know that I'll be able to get through even just the stuff that I marked off. But holy shit. Okay, so we're gonna break down some of this stuff today. This is the day I'm adding Joe Rogan and Dave Smith. Both of these motherfuckers are actively, ignorantly, vehemently, and violently talking out of their shithole about stuff they don't know even like the peripheral details of. I could trace the bullshit they're spreading to tweets they read 2 years ago, kinda. It's so fucking lame. All right, let's get started. And then, of course, they take what are common misconceptions and obvious truths that everybody fucking knows and overlap them and come up with what they call common sense, but is obviously like the derpiest bullshit. Let me show you. Okay, hang in there. Like, subscribe, and all that. All right, here you go. So this is, let me move this sucker up here. This is, for those of you who don't know, this is Joe Rogan, and Dave Smith is the other guy. Is this guy? Is that guy? Where is he? That guy. Okay. And this is a big fucking deal. Okay, it's been up a day. It's got 1 million views already. He's got 20 million subscribers on this channel alone, Spotify. I want you to understand, this is definitely me punching up. Okay? So, we're going to have to chop this into like 5 pieces because holy God. All right. So let's just start with the dipshittery right out of the gate. They've already been discussing like how the fucking CIA runs the world, but Tulsi Gabbard can be trusted. We'll get to that later. It's fucking nuts. But this is the part where I was like, all right, God damn it.
And I'd say the answer is that those guys got into power. They really hijacked.
By the way, he's talking about Wolfowitz, Pearl, all the guys from PNAC, including Dick Cheney. All the people you and I voted against, and we're like, yeah, no doubt, motherfucker.
American foreign policy after 9/11, because they happened to all be in power in the Bush administration. Then not.
Okay, real quick. Just, I want you to put a pin in, they hijacked American foreign policy. Well, if American foreign policy is always the same, no matter who the fuck is in charge, Democrat or Republican, that Israel's the third rail of politics and Russia's our perma enemy, no matter how much they try to fix up their image by raping a bunch of Chechen women and throwing them off fucking rooftops, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's in charge. However, when the PNAC people got in, they, quote, hijacked American policy. So the contradictions start right out of the gate. And this is constant.
9/11 happened on their watch. But if you go back and read the shit they read, and I will never stop talking about this because it's just
the shit they wrote.
It's too goddamn crazy. But if you read all of these guys, the guys who were in the George W. Bush administration, I mean, like
Yeah, aka the guys who weren't in the Biden administration, weren't in the Obama administration, wouldn't have been in the Hillary Clinton administration, weren't in the Biden administration, Mr. The Government. Do you ever notice that when Republicans are in fucking charge, it's the government? But when Biden or Obama's in charge, it's them. Trump's just kind of like along for the fucking ride with the Pentaverate, right? But when Obama's in there, he's got an agenda. It's like, okay.
Signatories on the Project for a New American Century, which was their think tank, the PNAC as it's called, were like Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld and Paul Wolfowitz and...
Yeah, all the people we voted against and all the people who were informing Project 2025 and going on, like, yeah, motherfucker. Again, this goes to this whole, like, how do you not know this shit? And by the way, his argument, I would like to remind everyone throughout this to keep in mind, in case you're not familiar with him, is that it doesn't matter who's in charge. There's the deep state running everything. So I don't know how the fuck you can hijack the deep state's agenda from the deep state and make it more deep. It's fucking dumb.
And Fife and Richard Pearl and David Wormser and the whole group who took over the government were all, and they wrote explicitly in the Project for a New American Century that they were like, look, okay, the Soviet Union has collapsed. We are, for the first time in human history, like the lone superpower in the world. So what we should do right now is fight multiple wars. because no one threatens us, and so therefore we should fight.
Also, by the way, I don't know that that's materially true. I think he's mixing two things. One was the paper that that was out that they were going to go after these 7 countries, and the Project for a New American Century, like, open stuff. There was nothing in the Project for a New American Century that says we should fight wars everywhere. Like, it's a confabulation. It's just grabbing facts from shitty herd and stuff that's actually there, slapping them together and go, nobody likes these fuckers, so they're not going to check. This is dipshittery, and it kind of lets them get away with it because by not singling these fuckers out as different from what voters want, different from what Democrats go for, he's asserting that basically this is just normal for America.
Multiple wars. Right now we have an opportunity to remake the world, overthrow the old Soviet sock puppet states, install our own states there, and guarantee, as the name says, the new American century of dominance, the 20th.
Also, by the way, there were no sock puppet states at the time. Those were the former Soviet socialist republics, and they had broken up.
First century. And they specifically said they want to overthrow Saddam Hussein. Yeah. And then they specifically said and now this is something that the 9/11 truthers really held on to. I'm not sure. I think they might be overplaying their hand a little.
Maybe, you think? Maybe?
A little bit here. But they say, there's one document in the Project for a New American Century, you can find it online, where they straight up say, they go, now look, this is what we want to do, but we're unlikely to get mass American support for it short of another Pearl Harbor type event. And so,
yeah, we've heard this shit for years. This is Alex Jones early 2000s.
So a lot of people like Alex Jones and a lot of the 9/11 truthers would point to this phrase and go, see, this is the proof that they knew they needed another Pearl Harbor, so they planned their own Pearl Harbor. Now, that is not necessarily true. It doesn't necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't know, Denise, this is Dave Smith. Dave Smith is like rose to prominence right now for attacking Israel, like from the right, and then being, because he views himself as a libertarian. He's a Ron Paul acolyte. Okay, just saying. So Hal's giving Malcolm Nance a run for his name shouting McShouterism.
Prove that, but it certainly does change the way you think about their mind state when they sit there watching the towers get attacked, and they all, at the very least, they all went, we got it.
Right, which is exactly why it mattered who we voted for and not just the guy you'd want to have a beer with, you dumb motherfucker, which is why Al Gore, if Al Gore had been in office when 9/11 came along, it wouldn't have happened that same way because he would have read his fucking presidential daily briefs. And secondly, okay, is Instagram not up? Substack is up, isn't it? Hold on one second. I'll check in. Whoops, hold on. Go back here. Where are you going? Come here. Back to here. This business. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Oh, I see. Hold on. 3, 2, 1, and we'll be up. Appreciate it. 3, 2, I'm waiting for it to start rolling, and then we'll go. All right. Okay, good. All right, there we are. We're live on Substack and on Instagram. Sorry, last couple of minutes. We're diving into the dipshittery that is Dave Smith's weak and pathetic argument, if indeed you can even call it that, with his hash of garbage facts, loosely knitted conspiracy theories, and gotcha details that everybody has fucking known for a quarter century. And the only thing dumber than fucking Dave Smith in this interview is Joe Rogan going, fuck, that is so crazy, about shit that's we've known for 2 fucking decades. All right, here we go. Back to where we were.
Alex Jones predicted 9/11 in July.
Yeah. But that's that's not quite as unique as I think some.
All right. It's not quite as unique. Get the fuck out of here. He didn't predict it in July. A bunch of people in July, particular, like in the fucking Congress, were talking about blowback and why it was important to not get involved in more wars and why Democrats specifically were better at dealing with this stuff, and we were moving our way out of the Middle East, and we didn't want to make the same mistakes Reagan had made and get tied up in this shit. And there was this back and forth about the peanut crowd that was in Bush's group, and the Democrats. And the Democrats were like, we don't want to do this stuff. And everybody was going, yeah, just the stuff we've already done is going to cause blowback.
People think it is.
Really?
Well, like people. So like,
You ever hear how he said it?
Yeah, I've heard the clip. It was pretty good. I mean, I'm not like taking anything away from that. He was right, but there were a bunch of people who predicted it. Ron Paul himself predicted it perfectly.
Did they predict
No, he did not.
planes into the towers?
Let's just say, no, I don't know about that. That is pretty impressive. But at the same time, you know.
No, he didn't. In the late 90s, everybody was talking about blowback from the Middle East. Everybody. Patrick Leahy was fucking talking about blowback in the 90s. They had Senate hearings about it. That's all they talked about in 1998 in the foreign relations in the national security and foreign relations committees in the Senate was about blowback from the fucking Middle East. Concerns about Afghanistan, concerns about Iraq, concerns about all the mainly Saudi Arabia because that's where we had troops stationed for a while. And then the blowback from Iraq and Qatar and Kuwait and all that shit. Of course that's what we were fucking talking about. They were dealing, by the way, with the aftermath of us funding the Yusufzad and the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. For those that haven't seen fucking Rambo 3.
But planes had never flown into towers before.
That's true, but the World Trade Center was attacked by Al-Qaeda.
There was the cover was them. There's like that cover for like a PNAC document that everybody talks about. He didn't predict it. He showed it on the air.
The guys in 93.
It's in a Biggie song.
Yeah.
And by the way, can I just remind everybody that the picture, hold on. God damn, these guys are stupid. Yeah, I need to move this over here so I can actually do this work. It gets so aggravating. Okay, let's see. PNAC cover 9/11 airplanes, towers, whatever. That fucking image of images. Let's see if I can find the. Let's see. Maybe it's just like report cover. Yeah. See, predicts. Maybe that's it. Hold on. People think, okay. Two planes in the towers, the way lone gunman, blah, blah, blah. You guys remember what I'm talking about. There was a cover to this thing that had airplanes and the towers and a target on both, right? Yeah, Clinton predicted it. There was that target on both of them. Remember that? And I'll see what this advanced knowledge conspiracy exposing says he predicted was trying to find that that singular image. Fuck off. Anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. There's a picture of the towers, and then there's two planes flying, and then there's a bullseye, and they're like, see, they predicted 9/11. At that point, terrorists had hit the towers, and they were targeting America, and they had hijacked planes. They put all those images on one fucking cover. Hijacking planes, blowing up the towers. Like, these were all goals stated by the enemy. The overlap of them was coincidental to the circumstance. It was and by the way, it looked scary, but the point was they had hijacked planes. There's a target on America. They have also bombed the base of the World Trade Center. Remember all that shit? They're coming back. That's what the fucking cover meant. Ugh. It's just so fucking lame. It's so tiring.
That's right. Yeah. Adrian Appalucci has the funniest
93?
joke about that.
Was it 93?
I believe so. Do you ever hear Adrian's joke about that?
No.
So I don't want to butcher it on your show, but Adrian Appalucci is a
She's so
hilarious
funny.
comedian. She had a joke about how
he does. He butchers it. Okay, so hold on. There's the point I want to get to is
then on a lot of people Wild West.
Well, it's weird when you hear about. So, I don't know if I fully buy into any of this, but
I'll say it anyways.
as a caveat before I get rolling. But when people discuss the
Why don't you just open the fucking show that way every day? You could save yourself a lot of grief, and people wouldn't take any of this shit seriously at all. I mean, that's one of the great things about Coast to Coast and stuff like that. If you play a theme song that sounds like the fucking Twilight Zone or the X-Files, people go, grain of salt.
intelligence agencies and their role in hip hop.
Hang on to this. Intelligence agencies and their role in hip-hop.
Especially gangster rap.
Especially gangster rap. This is, by the way, there's one of the reasons he's bringing this up is because the old story used to be that Jews did this to the blacks. This is a Black Hebrew Israelite and black supremacist argument that's been around for a long time, that Jews in the music industry, created gangster rap to turn generations of black kids into criminals in the hood. Yeah. So, but he's taking it from this idea that it was the intel community.
Like, I remember the very first time I listened to NWA. And
you went, I'm a white, thick-necked fucker. This really isn't aimed at me. What am I doing?
I think I told Ice Cube when he was here. I was on a fucking stair.
Told Ice Cube when he was there. Did you tell him the part about how you sort of believe that the intelligence community is responsible for his fucking career? Seriously, think about that for a second. You have the motherfucker on as your guest, in all deference, as your guest on the show. Did you bring up the fact that you kind of believe that he didn't get there by talent? It was Jews and the fucking CIA that created it? Wait, just wait. Wait and see how they miss the fucking train as it roars by the station.
Master in Revere, Massachusetts. And I was listening to Fuck the Police. I was like, fuck the police, coming straight from the underground. I was like, what is this? It was a cassette Walkman, or maybe it was a CD, but it was probably
they talk about that for a second.
Got good with the CD. I put
Like
on your
shock
hip.
mode
Right.
thing. Go to the gym with like spare battery.
Okay, they diverge into a reminiscing about CDs off of Ice-T, Ice Cube, NWA, Snoop Dogg only have a career because of the CIA. Just throw that out there and then walk away from it. Then come back in a second.
Still, because you'd
Yep.
go to the gym and it'd be like the worst Poison song playing, no disrespect to Poison, or something. And like, God, I can't get into this. I'm trying to get pumped here, man. This is
Yes, and nothing gets a white boy from Connecticut or Massachusetts or wherever pumped like fuck the police. The fuck out of here.
fucking bullshit music. Like someone's in charge of the station that they pick on the radio,
Dude,
just to be able to carry it. But that moment of hearing that music, I was like, this is celebrating crime and murder.
Yeah, well, obviously that's I think that's what everybody was taking from it was they're celebrating crime and murder. Sure.
Like, this is nuts. And murdering prostitutes and like, this is crazy that this.
This is crazy. Now, did he bring this up when Ice Cube, I guess, was across from him, or Ice-T rather? Probably not. All right.
It's like a major record label put this out. And I was only 21. And I was, I was just sitting there going, I can't even believe this is real. And then I got really into it. Like, I got really into Ice Cube, really into Ice-T. I'd listen to that when I was delivering newspapers. It was.
Wait. Stop. Listen to that sentence again. I what?
They're going, I can't even believe this is real.
Ugh.
And then I got really into it. Like, I got really into Ice Cube, really into Ice-T. I'd listen to that when I was delivering newspapers.
What'd you listen to in Boy Scouts? Fade to Black by Metallica?
It was like gangster rap was like a completely different thing. So then cut to when people start digging into it, like intelligence
They're digging into it.
agencies have had. There's a weird book on intelligence agencies and their role in rock and roll music in the 1960s the movie about the book about Laurel Canyon. What is it? Strange Things. It's very interesting. I don't know if I buy it. Eddie Bravo's all in on it. I don't know if I buy it, but there's a lot of like weird connections to the intelligence community and music, particularly hip hop and particularly gangster rap. And if you want to get really dark, you would say if you want to fill your private prisons up, what better way than have very popular music encouraging encouraging crime, encouraging outright celebrating crime and violence. That way you fill your prisons up and you also keep people scared so you can give them more laws and more rules and crack down and make them.
Yeah. Are you gathering that? So gangster rap was not a reflection of what was happening on the streets and a response by a particular group of people and starting to rap about this stuff. No, it was set up by intelligence agencies so that they could help private prisons fill up the population, because I guess people who listen to gangster rap on their fucking paper route will go, crime sounds cool. The fuck? Okay, hold on one second. I have to check one thing real quick. Chat room, if I may. Is Insta not up and running? It should. Yeah. Oh shit. Okay. It fluttered. Hi everybody. Welcome. We're taking the piss out of Joe Rogan and Dave Smith because they deserve it. Welcome back. It's Instagram. Hit that like. Give me a terrible emoji. Throw that in there. All right. Here we go. Back to this nonsense. They did flood poor places. We'll get to that.
Easier to placate, easier to get them to fall in line and do what you need them to do.
Right. So it was not just to shovel black people into jail, but gangster rap was there to scare white people into, I guess, working out harder.
Yeah, and support massive police buildups and massive, like militarization of the police and all this stuff. And I don't know, I've
Yeah. Let's just start with the dumb fuckery of this. Okay. The incarceration numbers in the United States went up directly in line with a nationwide fingerprinting database and the VICAP system, or the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. So that if you raped and murdered somebody in fucking Wisconsin, you couldn't just drive 2 states away, steal an ID from somebody you killed that looks vaguely like you, and pretend to be that person while you go on another crime spree. And when they fingerprint you, they don't check between the 2 places. And they've got no record of the crimes. So they can't tie serial murders together. They can't create RICO cases if you skip a state. It only works in tri-state areas. That's why the prison's filled up. That's exactly why. The margins of even people staying in jail longer, or being over-incarcerated for drugs or people like that was absolutely a problem. But it makes up about 8% of the growth. The rest of it were people like fucking Ted Bundy finally getting caught because you had to have your picture on your driver's license. They got your thumb, and they could, if they get your fingerprints, they can check it against the nationwide database and go, oh, this motherfucker's raping and murdering people in Colorado and Washington State. And then obviously, that's probably the first time you heard people arguing about who gets their first shot at giving somebody the death penalty or not. Right? States fighting over who gets to try somebody first, right? There's a reason that story came up. Okay. Anyways, holy shit.
Heard a little bit about that. I really don't know. I know Ice Cube has talked about it before, talked about how there's undeniably this influence. There are things about it.
Ice Cube has talked about undeniably there's an influence of intelligence communities making his albums go to #1 or get recorded at all. They're behind his deal. Citation fucking needed.
That seem crazy, but I do know that, and I don't even think this is a controversial thing to say. I think this is just fact at this point, that it was.
You think? Let's see.
The Reagan administration who did traffic in cocaine to the United States of America while they were ramping up the war on drugs. So they're bringing
100%.
in their effort to.
Okay, wait. All right. So they're talking about Iran-Contra and crack on the streets of Los Angeles. Largely what was considered a CIA under-the-table kind of agreement with the Congress and namely the Carter administration had cut off the CIA's ability to use direct funds for a bunch of shit. So they started trading in drugs and guns in South America and other places, which led to that going to the United States. And they looked the other way because the DEA liked to scoop people up, and it became this like, you can look like you're hard on this, and we can look like we're doing something down here, right? That was the back and forth. The idea that the Reagan administration sat down and went, we need some crack in Los Angeles is a little dumb. And they get to that eventually, but notice that he just said 100%, okay? What? Let's continue.
Help the Contras or whatever. They are going like, okay, well, these guys are drug dealers, so if we move these drugs in, we can get these money shipments to them. And then you're sitting in, they're creating the conditions for the crack epidemic to explode. And then they catch one guy with a few rocks on him, and they're throwing him in jail for decades. It's like...
Also, again, a conflation of what's effectively a common misconception laid out as common sense, and they tie it like they're just rounding up like little players and shit like that. It's just so lazy. There's so much more like gray area to this, but just watch how this is really just kind of like, we don't need a government. Anything the government does, bad, and it doesn't matter who's running it, even though all the people they're pointing out are fucking Republicans, and you would think that would occur to them. It never does. Not fucking ever.
Just that alone, just that one piece of information, you'd almost, if you're like in a sane world, you'd go like, oh, so the people had a revolution and overthrew that government and publicly hung all the politicians involved, and then we started over from new. And you're like,
just say no.
No, they lionized that guy. Still for decades after.
Whoa. They. He's talking about the U.S. populace. America. You and I, apparently, lionize Ronald Reagan and what he did, knowing full well Iran-Contra and what they did, and the drugs ending up on the streets of Los Angeles and New York and other places like that. They. Notice the use of the word they. This is so fucking crucial to this bullshit.
Words, the Republicans at the RNC, you bring up Reagan and they go, our hero, Ronald Reagan. Like, the fact that isn't...
It's the fact that you're not mentioning also that the DNC won't, ever. We all know this. But still they. Fuck off.
Enough to go, well, this guy should be remembered like as a monster.
Do you think they tell Reagan that they're selling crack in the hood?
I don't know.
Oh, by the way, this is what I was talking about. This is the part where he goes, and then they set up the situation where drugs are coming in and then Rogan's response immediately, Reagan administration, 100%. Right. Remember when he said 100%. Now watch this.
As a monster.
Do you think they tell Reagan that they're selling crack in the hood? I don't think they do. I do not think. I do not think the intelligence agencies let that information that far up the chain to a guy.
Here I come to save the day. Joe Rogan rolling in to protect Reagan's legacy.
I was only in there for 4 years before he used to get reelected.
Fair enough.
Not a chance.
But George H.W. Bush definitely knew.
Yeah,
that guy knew for
that
sure.
Guy knew. He fucking signed the docket.
That guy was all over that.
He was all over. He was the head of the CIA.
He was their guy.
Yeah,
he was the head of the CIA. Moved in. Right. So.
Yeah, what party was that guy? Because I remember voting against that guy, but I can't remember what I was registered as at the time. I was young, a new voter.
You know, but again, also you get to a certain point when you're president. I think this applies to Donald Trump in a lot of ways too, where it's like, it's your responsibility. Like, if you didn't know, then that's your responsibility for not knowing.
I don't think you...
Yeah, I feel the same thing should be true of this fucking show.
...have an access. I do not. I do not think in cases like that you have access. I think...
This is, by the way, I want to... Well, we'll get there in a second. So I don't want... every bit of this is worth, like, holy fuck, get the hell out of here. So let's jump ahead to... That's where they started. By the way, that... Well, shit, because they get to this one point. It takes
they're doing something like selling crack in the hood and using the money to fund the Contras. There's no fucking way you could ever kosherize that. So I don't think you ever let the president know. I think this is all black funded. I think there's layers and
What did the president know and when did he know it? Joe Rogan says nothing and never.
layers and layers of bureaucracy before you can get to any.
Bureaucracy. Layers of bureaucracy. There's no bureaucracy in an underground CIA black operation to sell drugs, you dumb motherfucker. They're not rubber stamping it. Bureaucracy is paperwork. It's a bureau of people who are there to enforce the fucking law. That's what makes it a bureaucracy. They sit there, nope, this is the rules. This is the rules. I don't care what the people say. We're following the Constitution. The laws are this way. That's so fucking lazy.
Real data and information. If you want to talk about people that are doing operations in Nicaragua, you've got things going on in Iran, you've got to pay attention to Russia, this is happening here, that's happening there. There's not a fucking chance he knows they're selling crack to pay for an army. I just don't think they would tell him.
Look, you might be right about
because
that.
why would they assume that he'd go along with it?
Or
They'd be
tell
like,
him-
this is not a normal thing to do. I came into this office thinking I'm an actor.
Yeah.
I'm Ronald Reagan. I came into this office thinking I'm going to be a good American and we're going to get back to basics. And
What the fuck are you talking about? Ronald Reagan's the one that said one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Of course he knew. Dumbass.
hard work and trickle-down economics. And you're telling me you're selling crack? Hey, fuck you. You're going to jail.
Where are you selling it? Oh, you're selling it to those people? Okay, that's fine. Well, you know, they could just say no.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
yeah, well-
because he can't. That's how Nixon got caught. So Nixon didn't
Oh, yeah,
organize
that's right.
Watergate. He tried to cover it up.
Yep.
That,
Yeah. Nixon didn't organize Watergate. He tried to cover it up. That was his only crime. Right? Okay. Wait, this gets good.
that's how he got caught. And they would do the same thing with Reagan.
Yeah, well, it's
You want to come clean about all the crack selling? Do you really?
Right. Well, they could present it to them after it's a fait accompli and then be like, so what do you want to do now? Which is what happened with Nixon, right? So it's like,
Right.
look, this is going to look really, really bad. Good luck explaining this.
Right.
So he helps them cover it up, and then you go, now we got you.
We got you, babe.
Now,
Yes, by the way, in case you're not following along, Nixon was innocent, and the deep state made him go along with the DNC break-in, and then after the fact, they blackmailed him with his lack of participation.
you might as well have been in on planning it because you helped us cover it up.
No, you might as well have not. What the fuck are you talking about? He could have actually, like, cut these motherfuckers off at the heels. He was involved, you dummy.
And the whole thing was set up by the government. That's
Yeah.
what's really crazy. Is intelligence agencies set up Watergate. They operated it. Bob Woodward was an intelligence agent before he was ever a reporter. That was his first gig. Tucker Carlson told me that it
Yeah.
blew.
Oh, well, Tucker Carlson told you that. He also tells you that all of Russia looks like the fucking Moscow train station. It's got chandeliers everywhere, and everyone in the country has a flush toilet and running water and a brand new washer and dryer.
Blew my fucking mind. He's like, what rookie reporter for their first gig, their first story, gets you're going to take down the most popular president in U.S. history?
Yeah.
They didn't. They didn't. They got the DNC break-in story. Read the book. Watch the fucking movie. What are you talking about? They didn't even know the president was attached to it at the time. Have you seen any of this? What the shit? Okay.
He
That's-
won by the biggest
On
margin.
49 states.
Oh, that's right. By the way, this is Nixon wasn't guilty of anything except, I guess, wandering around the White House while there were tapes going, bitching about women and Jews and blacks, which Dave Smith more than likely doesn't have that much of an issue with, it seems. We'll see. That may be an unfair cheap shot, or it might be right on the fucking nose. Let's find out. Yeah, but so Nixon was super popular, and everybody loved him, and so the deep state had to come for him.
Yeah.
He's just a dominant the American people had spoken. They supported this guy. And then, right, Bob Woodward, some 20-something-year-old reporter.
How fucking dare he?
He gets the biggest story in American history.
Right.
He just gets it. He just gets the story. Because that's what happened. He just got it. A bunch of CIA guys showed up at his fucking desk and went, type this up.
He happened to just come out of naval intelligence in a weird coincidence.
Did I tell you what Bill?
What the fuck does naval intelligence have to do with, like, national intelligence? For real. Naval intelligence just means you're a fucking comms guy. You think the Navy runs the world now? Jesus Christ.
Murray told me.
No.
So Bill.
Oh, wait. Okay, so he goes, you know what Bill Murray told me? To shorten the story so we can jump ahead, he says Bill Murray read the book Wired that Woodward wrote, and after 5 pages, he went, oh my God, they killed Kennedy, or they framed Nixon, because the book of Wired was such bullshit, and it didn't represent who his friend was. So he assumed that everything else Woodward has ever written is a lie. That's the idea. And the problem with Woodward isn't when he lies. It's when he tells the truth, but he waits till it's too late. That's an older Woodward thing. And you could argue that he was dragging his feet more than Bernstein during in All the President's Men.
Bill Murray was on the podcast and was talking about Bob Woodward's movie,
Yes,
the book he wrote. What was it? What was it called?
Oh, he can't remember Wired.
Well, he's written a lot at this point.
The one about Belushi. What was it called? It was
I never read
Wired.
that. Okay.
Wired. Okay, it was just about Belushi being fucking crazy drug addict. He goes, that's not my friend. He goes, that's not how he was. He was like, that was kind of an act. He was a little bit of a lightweight. Like if he had like 2-3 drinks, he was drunk. Like he goes, I think he did that speedball. I think that's the first time he ever did it and died. It's not that he never done drugs before, but he wasn't this guy. So this was all fiction. So he.
Okay, also, no, it isn't. It's a lot of different people's take on it, not just Bill Murray's. And also, I think the important thing here is that Bill Murray I don't think he said anything in the book. He wasn't interviewed for the book. He didn't give his 2 cents. So if Woodward's short on details about the softer side of John Belushi, and by the way, I read the book, I thought it was bullshit too. Right? I thought it was horseshit. But it was like a glam book. It wasn't like an in-depth look at the habits of a drug addict and where he scored and how and stuff like that. It was pretty peripheral. It was almost like Woodward shot at Pulp Fiction relevancy, like writing something that would sell because there was a story behind it, right? So I get that Bill Murray doesn't recognize his friend in this, but he wouldn't. Yeah, Aykroyd would have been a better source.
Read the first 5 pages is, oh my God, they framed Nixon.
Yeah.
Isn't that
That's
crazy?
interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
It's like this guy wrote about my friend in such a distorted, untruthful way. Now I have to think about what he discovered with Nixon. 'Cause
Yeah.
now I know.
No, you don't, because you knew the guy. Did he reach out to you to give your 2 cents and you told him to fuck off? Maybe all the people that loved John didn't want to participate in a book about his drug use, and they only got stories because of how you write. You only got direct, like, corroborative stories about the behavior from people who were more on the periphery. That happens all the fucking time.
What kind of person this is.
Yeah, my good friend who I mentioned quite a bit, but Scott Horton, who is I think the best foreign policy voice in the United States of America, and he wrote the best book on the terror wars called Enough Already, and the best book on the war in Ukraine called Provoked. But so
Right. This is, by the way, like basically the closest thing to a mainlining Kremlin talking points right into your fucking neck.
So Bob Woodward's latest book came out, and I remember he told me about this, but so he just happened to be writing his book on Ukraine when he saw this new Bob Woodward book came out, and they had a quote in it. I believe it was a Sergei Lavrov quote, who's like Putin's, right-hand man. And Scott said he's reading it, and he goes, "This quote's all wrong." He goes, the actual quote, like he was just researching this for his book, and he goes, the quote means the exact opposite of what.
Okay, sorry. Looking something up. Lavrov's full original quote was, "Those who mechanically repeat the points made in Bucharest and insist that third countries have no right to express their position on the issue of NATO enlargement are playing with fire. I am convinced they cannot be unaware of this." And then Woodward's version was, "Third countries, meaning the United States, have no right to express their position on the NATO enlargement and are playing with fire. I'm convinced they're not aware of this." His rewrite omits the critical context, who mechanically repeat, refers to inserts of interpretation, meaning the United States, that Lavrov never stated. But he meant, that's a reasonable inference, that he meant the United States. And also, nobody was mechanically repeating it. Insist that third countries have no right to express their position on the issue of NATO enlargement or playing with fire. I think actually, third countries, there might have been that Lavrov feels that third countries have no right to express their position meant that Russia couldn't speak about it. And that's why he says it's backwards. The difference is moot because the result is the same. Context: by dropping those who mechanically repeat in Bucharest and insist, specifically target the U.S., while Lavrov's full statement was broader and directional. The phrase "meaning the United States" injects a specific target, not in his original words. Grammatically adjusted without Woodward added the word "and" for readability, but didn't indicate this was an editorial fix. Multiple commenters, including Scott Horton, have noted that Woodward's passage does misquote and misrepresent Lavrov's original meaning. Yet the changes narrow the scope of Lavrov's marks and insert interpretive framing. Did it change the reality of it at all? No. It didn't change the meaning of it. Lavrov, regardless of that quote, what ultimately Woodward wrote is in line with what Russia is doing today and was doing all along. Also, what about CSTO expansion? How come these motherfuckers never bring that up? That actually the expansion of NATO was in direct response to CSTO. Which was the Soviet version of NATO, the post-Soviet version of NATO that Russia had, which was basically them trying to have security relationships with Kazakhstan and Dagestan and all the other former Soviet socialist republics, including Ukraine, and anybody who didn't want to, they invaded. Chechnya, Georgia, Ukraine, same thing. Obviously, Kazakhstan, before they invaded Ukraine, but failed to take it over and actually flip the control of the state.
He's claiming it means here. Like, see how he left out this part? He wasn't referring to this. He was referring to that. And then I remember he just told me, he goes like, so for the record, like, you can just never trust anything Bob Woodward says because...
By the way, for the record, Woodward's misquote of Sergei Lavrov turned out to be psychic. Turns out that actually Russia doesn't give a rat's ass about NATO expansion, or they would have bombed Finland the second it happened because they have a bigger border with them than Ukraine does. And they drove multiple countries into NATO every time they invaded another country. It didn't happen accidentally. NATO expansion, they didn't invade Georgia and Chechnya and Ukraine initially because of NATO expansion. 1997 Russian NATO founding agreement. This motherfucker has never read it.
He'll take this quote and just get it, mangle it to the point where he's presenting it as if it means 180 degrees opposite of what the quote actually meant. And so, yeah, there's...
By the way, the quote, the way he's saying it, let's be clear, is that Sergei Lavrov's opinion is that anybody who says that third countries that aren't NATO or aren't asking to be in NATO don't have a say in whether somebody else joins NATO or not is playing with fire. That's what he means. That if you think you can join NATO and not run it by us, you're playing with fire. That's what he meant. It's worse. It's actually worse than the quote that Woodward actually wrote. He said the third countries meant the United States. It doesn't. It meant Russia. It meant Russia wanted veto power over whether another country gets to join NATO. And they signed an agreement in 97 that said, you can if you want to. We don't care. The trilateral meetings and the agreement that came out of that where Ukraine gave up its fucking weapons also gave them the right to do this. Has this asshole read either the trilateral agreement or the 1997 Russia-NATO founding agreement? Not a chance.
A lot of stuff like that. And then that guy is like the historian of record.
Would you have ever imagined that?
Dude, bro, can you imagine that we're arguing semantics about a quote that was more horrible than even Woodward presented it? Okay, we'll jump ahead because literally I could do fucking every minute of this shit. Okay, the next one up. Nixon is a victim.
You need rule of law, and sometimes
This is the funny part. Here we go.
leadership. Not saying you need tyranny, not saying you need a dictator, but you need fucking laws and you need rule of law. And sometimes those people come off.
By the way, this is in response to the Patriot Act was a huge overreach and embarrassing and wrong, and they were waiting to set it up. And it was the plan all along, and they were trying to get this stuff through. And then he rolls back. But sometimes you need laws.
Very harsh and very uncaring and unloving, and the total opposite for like the reason why people voted for Jimmy Carter, I think, because Jimmy Carter represented like a genuinely sweet, good guy.
Right.
But like, look how that presidency was a disaster.
No, it fucking wasn't. We were at OPEC's we were under OPEC's thumb because of the natural evolution of the combustion engine to the catalytic converter to the switch from leaded to unleaded gasoline and the prevalence of vehicles in every home. That he was just president at that arc point. And we like to blame him for the problem that they had us over a barrel, no pun intended. Jimmy Carter was a good fucking dude, and he put more limits on the fucking CIA than anybody else, so it wasn't a fucking disaster. And if you're going to say that anybody in the CIA or any of these intelligence groups went after a president and tried to shut him the fuck down, it was the ones that were playing footsie with the Reagan campaign so that they could get in the fucking 80s and reverse everything, all those limitations that Jimmy Carter had put on. He created the IG system, the inspectors general. That was Carter.
They were all working against him for sure. And on top of that,
For sure.
it's like hard to you gotta be a bit of a hard ass if you want to run the world. But the way Nixon did it, we're still suffering.
He shut down the CIA, you dumb motherfucker. He cut off their funding. Why do you think they had to go sell drugs and guns under the table to keep funding the operations? Because they couldn't get direct funding. Because they've been told to go pound sand.
Through that today. That motherfucker, he's partially responsible for that sweeping Schedule 1 Act of 1970.
It's Nixon he's talking about.
When they did...
By the way, Nixon's innocent and was hounded out by the deep state because he was super popular, but later on they bring up the fact that he was rambling around yelling about blacks and Jews and poor people and whatever the fuck he was rambling about in the White House on the tapes, and he created the Schedule 1 issue and basically began the war on drugs. These motherfuckers want a pig with two asses at the barbecue. Like, they want a pig on a spit with no head. They just will not be satisfied until they can suck this thing out from both ends.
Did that, and they made everything illegal. Everything Schedule 1, including things that are 100% medicinal, like marijuana.
Marijuana is not 100% medicinal. Like, nothing is. Aspirin's not 100% medicinal. Listen to Cat Williams. If you got a headache, aspirin's your friend. You take 100 of those things, be the last headache you ever had.
All that fucked up society, and they did it specifically to target the anti-war movement and to target the civil rights movement. Specifically. So it's...
They. Remember, it's always they. It's always they and the deep state. Same people that are doing the climate change stuff and trying to get you vaccinated are also the same people that created the war on drugs. And it always happens when there's a fucking Republican in office and not when a Democrat's in office. But it's they, them. It's always them and they and them.
It's not like Nixon was the best.
How dare you?
Oh, no. Oh,
what he did was fucking horrible.
Nixon.
But he was the most popular ever, and he was hounded out by the deep state.
Had a lot of policy failures, and I would put the number one, and I completely agree with you. I mean, launching the war on drugs was a disaster, but taking us off the gold standard was one.
Okay, so he smokes weed at Ron Paul's house all the time, so he's of course going to believe that the gold standard thing is the kicker. Let's move ahead real quick to his experience with Dr. Ron Paul.
And they were like, I don't think you got enough gold to cover all these dollars.
Right. So this is back and forth about like the French were trying to fuck us and the temporary status and whatever. And like again, basing your economy on a pretty rock is just fucking dumb.
That
Well-
we never heard about.
Well, what I know is that I'm pretty sure it was the French, might have been the British too, but it was definitely the French. And
All right, whatever.
No.
It's the same fucking story. Right.
Framed it as like, the French are attacking
Right. Okay. Where's this?
like that's what you should have done, because the decision to go off of the gold standard essentially just said, well, now there's no more even pretend limits on government.
Yes, there are. The Fed sets the standard of what the dollar is worth based on its the amount in circulation, the work that's being done, the amount of products bought and sold inside the United States, imports and exports. It's more complicated than a fucking pretty rock. You know why? Because an advanced economy would not be based on the pretty rock you can mush into a crown and wear on your stupid fucking head.
This is why Ron Paul.
Why don't you base it on coal while you're at it? Shit, you can make the value of your money go up the more coal you burn. Then the value of coal will go up as you heat your house, and then your dollars are worth more until you have to use them to heat your house.
Happy birthday to the greatest living American hero.
old
Just
is he now?
turned 90.
Ron Paul, the greatest living American. Ron Paul, the guy who was fucking like astroturfed by the fucking Russians on his run. Just a pile of shit. Ran on this audit the Fed nonsense that everybody buys into and never happens.
I was just at his birthday party a few weeks ago.
I was just at his birthday party a few weeks ago. Who else was at that birthday party, Dave Smith? Huh? Who else? Anybody?
And
Damn, look at you partying with Ron Paul.
That dude throws it down. No, I'm just kidding. It was very nice though to see him. Tulsi Gabbard was there, which was cool.
Sorry, speaking of Russian astroturf, who?
Throws it down. No, I'm just kidding. It was very nice though to see him. Tulsi Gabbard was there, which was cool.
Tulsi Gabbard at Ron Paul's fucking birthday party with this dipshit. What? Sorry, the head of the ODNI is at the fucking at the birthday party of Ron Paul. And this motherfucker's like, the CIA's to blame for everything, or used to be. Now it's great. Now we can trust the intelligence services today under Donald Trump. And God bless Tulsi Gabbard and how she's running. She's not doing anything fucking sketchy. Get the fuck out of here.
But so essentially, right, that was the last restraint on government, is that at least even then, even under Bretton Woods when we're cheating, at least there's some feeling of like, well, don't cheat too bad, because they could maybe try to,
Count the gold.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But after that, it was off to the races. And this is why Ron Paul ran for Congress. It was when Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. And then he was like, this is going to lead to big government. This is going to be the era of big government. So he was going to run to try to stop that.
In Nixon, this is during Nixon. He's going to run for Congress to stop that because it's going to lead to the era of big government. So, and by the way, by big government, they meant Nixon, then Ford into Carter for 4 fucking years. And then we don't get to even a system where the Republican Congress or Senate is going for the contract with America, and the president, who is a Democrat, is trying to curb spending, including that clip they keep using of Joe Biden where he's like, I'll cut Social Security, but we have to cut everything equally. We can't pick and choose. You can't gut Social Security and then raise defense spending. I'm not going to fucking do it. But if you're serious about cutting everything by a percentage, let's fucking talk. And they always use that against him, like Joe Biden wanted to cut Social Security. He was calling their fucking bluff.
And he was completely right. This is what has really destroyed everything.
Really destroyed everything. Says I would argue 2 millionaires talking across the table. What do you think? I mean, he's not broke, and Joe's a fucking multimillionaire. Everything's broken, is it?
That there's just no, and it's a big part of the reason why I'm so angry about all these wars too, because it's all related.
No, it is not.
The Federal Reserve was created in 1913. or the Federal Reserve Act.
All right. So this is the same libertarian bullshit that everybody throws at. Wait. This is the important part, though. He skips ahead. I wrote down 4417. Something right. I'll lead up to that. Here we go.
Like, this is the banking system and the tax system are very, like, interrelated with the warfare state. Like, you need this.
Okay. Focus on what he's about to say here. So they created the banking system, which, by the way, was still on a gold standard at this time. Because they wanted to wage war.
Stuff in order to fight wars. And, you know, even just over over the last 25 years, we've spent close to $10 trillion on wars, you know, and they didn't tax the American people for that. Because they know they couldn't tax us enough to pay. We would put an end to it. If they tried to raise everybody's taxes enough to come up with $10 trillion because we want to go fight regime change wars all over the Middle East, the American people.
Well, we don't. And by the way, that's why 9/11 was the precursor for it. It wouldn't have happened on its own. This is so lazy. I mean, again, this is just like crumbs from the fucking edge of Alex Jones's desk from fucking 15 years ago. Oh, wait. The setting up the income tax was actually, well,
would have been like, no, we're not doing that. But they didn't do that. They kept taxes where they were. I think they even cut some rates during those years, the top rates. And then they borrowed the rest, and they still couldn't borrow enough, so they just print the money. And then essentially what happens is that the price of everything just goes up and up and up, and you just put more.
Also, it didn't. Like inflation didn't spike during the beginning of the Iraq War, or even in the middle, or even near the end of the Iraq War. For real. And the debt accrued in that was borrowed from Social Security.
Money into the system, and then people start looking around and going like, geez, why is the price of housing and healthcare and energy and childcare totally unaffordable? And the answer is because you're paying for the war in Iraq.
No, it isn't. Like, again, completely unfucking related. Seriously. What do you think? Corporations are completely off the fucking hook in this shit? What? What the? Honestly. Like, and look at his fucking face. He seems to think this is like an aha moment. Like regular consumer inflation is not up because we spent money on wars. The only time it actually drives the price of those kind of things up is when oil is interrupted. And that doesn't even happen anymore. Oil consumption, we've hit peak oil. Oil consumption is going down while production is up. This is fucking, and both of them are like, fucking, because, and I think it's largely the Democrats behind the scenes making Bush and these guys and Nixon do this. Like, get out of here.
And nobody thinks about it like that.
Because it's stupid.
But that's really what's going on. They can't. So for all the young people who are coming out of college now, and they're like, I'm 150 grand in debt. I have a gender studies major degree.
Yeah, this is the obligatory woke dunking, right? Because you went to school for something stupid and useless, right? Is the idea, and gay and female or something, right? You got to throw that in.
Or whatever, maybe something better than that. But
yeah, how about coding, motherfucker? Since nobody needs you to code. If you're in college right now, by the time you get out of college, AI will be coding everything.
They got an English degree or something, and they're working at DoorDash, and the average house is going for 600 grand. And
the average house isn't going for 600 grand in the United States.
They're like, what am I possibly going to do? It's like the reason why these kids are all demanding socialism, at least on the left, is because, what else are you going to do?
I don't know. Ask the kids on the right who apparently aren't demanding socialism. Oh, wait. Yes, they are.
How do you even... But the reason why that is the case is because...
They just don't call it that. They just call it, be a boss and give us stuff.
Your government decided to spend trillions of dollars on blowing up brown countries, and in some cases then rebuilding them to blow them up again. I mean, this is the actual cost of the thing. And
no, it's fucking not. What were they going to do? Seriously. Look, the money's borrowed against the Social Security safety net. It's not like made up. They didn't just print money. This money printer go burr bullshit is nonsense. The reason we print more money is because the currency, our country's currency, is the baseline currency, not just for like oil trades, but for a bunch of countries. Fucking Turkey's entire economy is run on dollars. Argentina is using US dollars. The whole country. Like, their monetary supply is predicated on our money being available.
I feel like it's almost nobody outside of like the Ron Paul libertarians, the Austrian economics guys.
Yes, the dipshit, isolationist, Ayn Rand suck-ups.
Almost nobody else ever makes this connection.
No, everybody else looks at the connection and dismisses it as the bullshit that it is. Yeah, Austrian economics is fucking ridiculous. So is libertarianism. It's not even a political philosophy. It's somewhere between like the Unabomber's fever dream and a get off my lawn.
That it's like, this is the deal. You can't be a world empire without having a central bank that can print money for you, because otherwise it just doesn't work. Resources are finite and you'll run out of them. And so
maybe that's why all the bigger countries have fiat currencies. Does this asshole think that like most countries are based on a gold standard? Are any major countries based on a gold standard?
Can't do that without having this monetary system. But the cost of this monetary system is that prices always go up and up and up and up, and that rigs the entire economy against the working class and the middle class in favor of the rich. It's just the way it is. When the value of assets is going up and up and up and up, that's great if you own stuff. That's great if you own stuff and you're selling it. If you got $1 billion in the bank, inflation is your best friend.
Okay, there is this year. Hold revenue more heavily than others. Till 1999, Venezuela's Guess how many countries? I don't want to check this. I'm going to check this again against two sources just to make sure. High countries still use gold standard to back their currency. Anybody want to guess? Anybody want to guess how many? Anybody? Whew. Anybody want to guess how many countries still stick to the gold standard? Out of 180 major countries, not counting, Peter Thiel's bullshit. Matt, there you go. Black Dragon right out of the fucking gate. Nails it. 0. There are no countries. None. Sorry, David. I appreciate your like the G7 or something is probably where you were going with that. None. Not a fucking one. There are no countries on Earth that still hold to a gold standard. Not a one. That's right. Not the G7, not the G8. Nobody. People hold gold for its value as an asset, but they don't peg their currency to it. Nobody does. Not even the BRICS countries. Nope. The BRICS countries, they would go to war about gold if they had to peg the bricks that they're going to make up to it. None. Not a fucking one. So the question, I guess, for Dave Smith is that if the reason you create a fiat currency is so that you can wage war, and there's not a single fucking country on the gold standard, is that the plan for everybody? Is there a pinbic for the project for a new Bulgarian century? Or PNEC for the project for a new English century? Or the PINFIC for the French century? God damn. All right. Sorry. I know this is a lot today, but Jesus.
But if you're on a fixed income or you're a working class person, it just...
You should have voted for Harris, and I hope you voted for Biden, because this asshole doesn't even think you should be allowed to have a fixed income. Let me be real fucking clear. Any like fucking like violin music this dickhead is playing for people on a fixed income or on Social Security is bullshit, because libertarians don't believe that it should exist. Period. There should be no Social Security. There should be no Medicare, no Medicaid. That's overreach by the federal government, and people should be allowed to drown like God intended.
Destroys you. And everybody who's working class knows this just from living through the last 5 years. But, you know, your grocery prices go up 30%. That is, you know, that's you know, people have this idea that there's...
What caused it? What, the Ukraine war caused it to go up 30%? Could it possibly be the necessity of expenditure from reshoring after COVID?
Like economic issues over here, and then there's like social issues over here, there's foreign policy over here, but it's all one thing.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's just red strings attached to red strings, man. Fucking hell. Yeah.
You know, the prices of groceries go up by 30%.
Okay, where is it? Okay, this is...
And families get destroyed. Men swallow pistols. Kids grow up without fathers. Like, that's
when unemployment goes up like a point. Like the suicides go up like there are like 10,000 suicides tracked every point it goes up, which is why the Democrats focus on keeping unemployment as close to zero as possible. So the only people looking for a job are people who want one.
Cost of this shit. And that's what we're living through now. And what we'll continue to live through as long as we have a government that it spends way beyond our means. Like
Trump is responsible for a third of the national debt. By the time he's done with the spending he's going to do during his term, he's going to be responsible for half of it, approaching $40 trillion. Half of the national debt. He had a third in the last term. It's going to be half.
Dr. Ron Paul used to say, when you spend...
Dr. fucking Ron Paul. Jesus.
Beyond your means, you're destined to live beneath your means.
Yeah, bro. That's not true at all for either of these two gentlemen.
And we have an economy that's built around doing the exact same thing it's always done, right?
What's that?
And if you think about the amount of money...
Sorry, what's the exact same thing it's always done?
Just in...
Oh, welcome, Robin. This is Dave Smith on Joe Rogan. And by the way, I think we skipped past the point where he said that fuck, I gotta find this one point because it's gonna drive me crazy. Where is it? Back here? 44, 42. Let's see.
We'll take gold. You know, we got all these dollars. We'll take gold. We get an ounce for every 35. I think you got enough gold.
Hold on. I think it might be
an ounce for $35. And a lot of Asia is destroyed, or not yet. I guess this is World War II. It was in 1944.
Yeah, here we go.
Look, what were we going to do at that point? And so he was basically saying, because what happened was essentially, so you had like the Bretton Woods Agreement, which started after World War II. Or actually, I'm sorry, it started at the very end of World War II. It was in 1944, where they had the Bretton Woods Agreement, where they could kind of see where World War II was going. And it was basically like, okay, well, all of Europe is destroyed, and a lot of Asia is destroyed, or not yet, I guess this is 44, but it was getting there. And America had, you know, at least on the homeland, hadn't really been touched. And we had like a wild amount of the world's gold. And so the deal was essentially that like, we will peg the dollar to gold at $35 an ounce. Everyone else can peg their currency to the dollar, and then the dollars are refundable. You know, you can get an ounce for $35. And so that, you know, was whatever. There were problems with the Bretton Woods Agreement, but that was what stood from after World
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Just fill in the blanks.
War II so from 1944 to 1973. Or 1971, when he took us off the gold standard. And so essentially what happened was through the 60s, we started cheating. And it became very obvious to the world that we were like, you know, in the 1960s, you're like, you have the Great Society. So we created Medicare and
oh, yeah. This is the argument that we lied to all the other world powers about how much gold we had. Fuck, hold on. I have to find this one part. Like, this is the same, like, Ron Paul horse shit we've heard forever.
All that fucked up.
It's for one, and I completely agree with you. I mean, launching the war on drugs was a disaster, but taking us off the gold standard was one of the
that's the other.
speechwriter for him. And he was like, well, look, what were we going to do at that point? All of Europe is destroyed. And
Okay, so it's 44-17. Hold on, beg your pardon. Let me see if I can find this little piece.
this is going to lead to big government. This is going to be the era of big government. So he was a big by Woodrow Wilson in 1913.
Oh, here we go.
Because it's all related.
It's all related. Here we go.
You know, the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, or the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law by Woodrow Wilson in 1913. And then in 1914, I think is when it actually got up and running. And in 1914 is when the income tax was passed, also signed into law by Woodrow Wilson. And 3 years later is World War I.
What? Like, holy shit, who could see that coming? They passed the income tax, and 3 years later, we start irritating Hitler, who's just trying to do his fucking thing, baby.
You know? Like 3 years later, or American entry into World War.
Sorry, it might help your case if we started the fucking thing because of some bullshit. American entry.
One. So it's like this is the banking system and the tax system are very like interrelated with the warfare state.
Yeah, okay. So that's the part I accidentally skipped over that earlier. Yeah. How stupid? That's stupid. Seriously, like, I mean, let's not breeze past this. This motherfucker just made the case that there is a direct line between passing the income tax and the Fed, creating the Fed, a federal government, like a central bank, because our country was growing, and us going into World War I. Not World War II, World War I. Because, I mean, we gotta, you know, how are you gonna print money if you're not killing people, right? That's the argument. Okay, so then, just when you thought he couldn't get dumber about shit, they go into Ukraine. So let me, is this, where is it? 50, okay. Here we go.
You know, whatever, I'm not. But I took a lot of heat for the stuff I said on the show here a few years ago about the war in Ukraine.
And rightly so.
Look at it now, dude. Look at even, and I don't think they're about to end the thing. I think they're, which we could talk about, but I think they're putting poison pills in these negotiations already. That's what it looks.
Yeah, real quick. Nobody gives a fuck what you think about this. Like, you're going to think that shit. You pour nothing but nihilistic, isolationist horse shit into your fucking dome. And of course, the blender that is your brain is going to come up with, look, they must have a perfect deal, but somebody's fucking it up. It can't possibly be that Putin wants the entire country, and it couldn't possibly be that Ukraine doesn't want to just let the rapists get away with it. It couldn't possibly be that. They've got to have a deal, and it's got to be perfect.
Looks like to me. But literally, the deal that I was talking to you about, whatever it was, 3 years ago, when I was saying on the show that they had a deal worked out, a peace deal worked out in the first few months of the war in 22.
Oh, okay. This is the Boris Johnson bullshit.
And Boris Johnson went and killed the peace deal.
No, he did not. This is a fucking lie. I'm not going to call it like misinformation or disinformation. This is a fucking lie. The Istanbul meeting between the Russians and the Ukrainians that the Biden administration put together that year to try and get them to work this shit out, the Ukrainians had already decided that the Russians weren't serious and they didn't trust them anyways. When their delegate came back, they met with Boris Johnson and he said, don't trust them. They only understand pressure. And they're like, dude, we know.
On behalf of the West to make sure this war kept going.
On behalf of the West. Yeah, that's what America sent Boris Johnson on our behalf. And so did France and Germany and the EU. They all got together and said, Boris Johnson's the fucking man to send.
But
by the way, Boris Johnson, who sucked up to Trump when he was in office, Biden's going to go, yeah. Have Boris Johnson go there. They'll listen to him.
Deal that was in pencil, not pen. That Boris Johnson.
No. It was not in pencil or pen. It never got to the actual draft position. They hung up on the talking points.
Johnson killed was essentially
It was like basically. It was like basically.
recognition of the annexation of Crimea. It was at the time. It wasn't annexation of the Donbass region. It was like independence for the Donbass region.
Right, which they would control.
And then the agreement that the rest of Ukraine would not join NATO. That was the deal that they had worked out. And look at where we are now.
Right. All demands and nothing for Ukraine. Listen to that. That's the deal. Listen to this dumb motherfucker. Okay, what were the talking points of the fucking deal? This is what he's like. Look, they had a deal. What was the deal? What was the deal?
Crimea. It was
Sorry, you go back.
that Boris Johnson killed was essentially
Essentially, this is the deal that somehow Ukraine was stupid not to take, but Boris Johnson fucked up on behalf of the West.
recognition of the annexation of Crimea.
A Russian win.
It was at the time. It wasn't annexation of the Donbass region. It was like independence for the Donbass region. And
And also, that never actually got pen to paper anywhere. He's just making that up.
then
But the idea is that it would be a neutral territory controlled by neither, which Russia felt it could fill with its own people. It had arguably had. They would just funnel human beings into it because they have a larger population. Bullshit. Like, that party's just fucking pulling out of his ass.
the agreement that the rest of Ukraine would not join NATO.
Right. Okay. 3 Russian wins. Where's the fucking deal for Ukraine? Where's their security guarantees? Where's their sovereignty? Where's their fucking border protections? Where's their guarantee that Russia won't do this again? What the fuck kind of deal is that? It's not a deal. It's like, this is how fucking... And the dude's like, and they would have taken it. Now look at them. Fuck, they could have taken it. Jesus Christ. I've heard more cogent arguments from a ham sandwich.
That was the deal that they had worked out.
That's not a deal, motherfucker. That's 3 Russian demands that they get. What does Ukraine
look at
get
where-
out of it? What does Ukraine get out of it? Lost land and fuck you? What about their kids back? What about people, being, like, tried for war crimes for sending rape squads into their fucking country?
We are now. Now, the deal that they're even talking about, even as Donald Trump goes, there's going to be some land swaps and all this. Okay, well, what's he talking about? The deal right now that is the best case scenario that we're hoping we could.
No, it's not the best case scenario. If it was the best case scenario, the Ukrainians would have taken it. Also, they didn't have Kursk at the time, and they do now.
Get is that Vladimir Putin obviously keeps Crimea,
Obviously.
keeps the entire Donbass region, gets a corridor from the south into Crimea, and
If you have the Donbass, that is the corridor, dumb fuck.
the rest of Ukraine.
What, does he not think that... Real quick. Well, all right. How in the ever-loving shit? I'm going to make this a little small. Hold on. This is the current area. Here's Zaporizhia. Here's Dnipro. Russians want this. They want Zaporizhia. They want Dnipro. They want Kharkiv. They want Sumy. They want all this area right here. They do not have it. Let me repeat that. They do not have Sumy. They do not have Kharkiv. They do not have any of this territory. They have lost this chunk in the last little bit. They have not moved along here. And the corridor he's talking about, it already exists in this area. If they had just if they froze the lines as now, what the fuck does he mean corridor? God damn. And here's the problem. Joe Rogan is sitting there going, God, this is so fucking nuts, because he can't even picture the fucking map in his head, even though they're talking about human lives and actual war and real shit. He can't even picture what that looks like or the area. Yeah, Ukraine has taken back giant chunks of land lately. And he's like, dude, they can't win. It's like Marjorie Taylor Greene level talking points. So fucking lazy.
Doesn't join NATO. So we have the same deal, just a little bit.
If they don't join NATO, or they don't have NATO-like protections, they're fucked. Because Russia has no reason to not enter again. Also, we already had that agreement. The trilateral agreement was Ukraine, which had the third largest stockpiles of nukes in the world after the US and Russia. Ukraine had enough to make it third in the world. They give up their nukes, and we provide them with security guarantees for the 91 borders that they had. We had that agreement with Russia. Russia's like, they give up their nukes as part of this, and they're on our board. They don't have to join NATO. We're not going to invade. We promise. How'd that work out? 1997 Russian-NATO founding agreement said that if a country wants to join NATO or doesn't want to join NATO, it's up to them. Sergei Lavrov's bullshit quote about the third parties should have a say in it. No, in 1997, they signed a treaty saying it's up to Ukraine. This motherfucker has, and it's beyond just being bullishly isolationist and libertarian to the point of, like, just emotional toxicity. This motherfucker has no idea what he's talking about because he only reads the details he wants to hear so that he can keep sucking Ron Paul's dick. Anything that interferes with job one, which is gargling Ron Paul's balls, is immediately cast out. It is shunt from the Amish territory that is his brain.
More in the Russians' favor 3 years later, with hundreds of thousands of people having died in that process.
Yeah, it's a fucking war, and Russia's lost more than Ukraine has. What does that tell you?
Just to get back to not as good a deal as they had.
No. The current deal that separates that entire area included area that Russia had not conquered yet.
In 22. And so...
Dude. And the fucked up part is listening to Joe Rogan fucking grunt in the background with this like, dude, this is crazy.
Oh, you know...
And if they don't sign that,
it'll keep going, which I think it's probably going to.
Yeah, it is. Because I guess the fucking Ukrainians just want to die, right? They're so stupid. These stupid fucking people. Why don't they just roll over and take it? I mean, they after this, they venture into, if they didn't want Russia to attack, they shouldn't have worn that short skirt level shit. All right, next piece was, what was this? Set me off. Hold on.
In the NATO agreement that says that, like, it says that, like, if one of the countries is attacked.
Oh, yeah. Hold on.
The Ukrainians don't want to fight over this stuff anymore. So there's just no justification.
Oh, for he's saying basically like 70% of Ukrainians just want a peace deal no matter what. They don't care about the details. They don't give a shit. They just want the war to stop. They give Russia whatever they want. That's his argument. 70%. It's just fucking nonsense.
For it. So now they move to phase B, which is essentially to pretend like they're negotiating, but putting all types of poison pills in the deals.
Yeah, this is all like in his fucking head.
That the other side won't take it. This is what they did.
The other side. Meaning Russia. Because I guess they can't put... Can the U.S. intelligence community put in poison pills through Steve Witkoff into Russia's plan? Like, it's just so stupid.
With Iran, too. This is why we got into that 12-day war, as they're calling it now. But, it's like you put things into I was just reading the other day. It was on Axios. There's
Sorry, assholes like you don't get to source mainstream media. Axios is mainstream. It's not right-wing. You can't shit all over it. But then, they do this with every fucking thing. The CIA's behind every bad thing in the world. But anyway, so I'm at a birthday party with fucking Tulsi Gabbard.
Reports that Zelensky and the Europeans are like open to land swaps as long as there's, in their words in the Axios piece, Article 5 like security guarantee.
Yeah. Why is that a problem? If Russia's not going to invade, who gives a shit what they call it? By the way, that's what we had on the trilateral agreement. That's what we had. We were supposed to provide for Ukraine's security if Russia invaded after we made them give their nukes back to Russia to dispose of. By the way, does anybody think Russia actually took those nukes and destroyed them like they said they would?
So in other words...
Oh, wait. And I don't think Joe knows what Article 5 is.
The rest of Ukraine's in NATO, which is the thing that caused the whole conflict to begin with.
Bullshit.
Oh, so, like, yeah, and...
Listen to... Oh, God.
That's what that means? Article 5?
You've been talking about this shit for fucking years. How dare you? Honest to God. How do you fucking... Like, just tap the fuck out. If you don't know what Article 5 is during this conversation, when this shit's been going on for fucking years, and you've been talking about it like Ukraine should just bend over and fucking take it, and Vladimir Putin's a fucking boss, and Trump's gonna be the peace president, and you've been shoveling that shit down your viewers' fucking throats for years, and then you're on fucking August 26th of 2025, you're like, that's what Article 5 means? Fuck you.
5 is the article in NATO, in the NATO agreement, that says that, like, it says that, like, if one of the countries is attacked, like, all the countries have to join together to help. It doesn't exactly say you got to go to war over it, but it's like you have to help in the effort if they're attacked. So essentially,
an attack on one is an attack on all.
That's what they're trying to ask now, which is, but if you think about it, right, it's designed to incentivize Putin to keep the war going. Because...
Why? Finland's in it, so I'm sorry, that's done. Finland has a bigger fucking border. At least currently. So I guess Finland being in NATO is just going to keep the war going on forever anyways because they can't have a bigger NATO border with them? Fuck you. We can put all the missile defense systems in fucking Finland we want to. What are you talking about? It's a voluntary organization. Unlike the CSTO, the Russian version, which is done by force.
If you're telling Vladimir Putin, let's just say, which it's not exactly clear that he would even take the deal that I just laid out before.
He won't. It's exactly clear. He will not.
But it was, I know that it's been reported that he was...
It's been reported. Adorable.
Was being signaled that he might be open to that deal. I get the Donbass region. You know, he's got still, like, the Donbass region is Donetsk and Luhansk. And in Luhansk, I think, as of right now, I think the Russians control like 75% of it. They got all of Donetsk. They got most of Luhansk. But there's still Ukrainians controlling part of it. And then he's controlling part of these territories in the south. So this is what Trump means when he says the land swaps, meaning essentially you get out of the Donbass region, give me that, and I'll give you back. You know, the land swaps are Putin taking what he wants and leaving you the rest. But...
right. And I can't imagine why the Ukrainians would have a problem with that, especially because their fucking citizens are there.
If you're going to tell Vladimir Putin, who fought this entire war over Ukrainian entry into NATO being his
bullshit
line.
That's a lie. It's a lie. It's just bullshit. There was no push to get them into NATO at all. He wanted their resources. The primary reason was, like, for the impetus for doing it right now was the natural gas fields that were discovered outside of Crimea. You get the rights to the ones that are, like, you know, up to 100 or 125 or 220 miles off your coast of Crimea, and there are a ton of them. And he wants to cut off that supply so that Ukraine can't sell it to Europe to replace the supplies coming from Russia and control those supplies themselves and put them through the Black Sea past Turkey in ships. Sell oil and gas that way. It's a resource war.
Basically, in the middle of the, or not in the middle of, as the war is potentially wrapping up, you're going to
potentially wrapping up.
Tell him, hey, whatever territory you don't take here will be a part of NATO. Well, what does that incentivize him to do?
Not pick a fight with fucking Finland?
take more of it then. Then why would you stop and give the rest of it up? And it does seem to me like that is clearly, at least from the Europeans, that is clearly the motivation of all of this, is to present something. It's they do have their chess war moves. And
all right. His argument here, this is so fucking stupid. And I got to like jump around in this and I hate doing this because usually I do things all the way through. But his argument that like the Europeans are just doing this to continue to provoke Russia because they don't care about Ukrainian deaths and it's a losing battle anyways, but they figure they can, I don't know, drive him crazy or some shit. It's so fucking dumb. Check this out though. Hold on. And that this is some sort of strategy that they have to like, we'll poke him.
So you present something that you know the other side can't agree to, and then when they don't agree to it, you go, look, we tried to negotiate.
Or you could present something logical and reasonable considering the fact that they attacked this country, that it would want protections like that, and you go, take it or fucking leave it, dummy. We don't trust you to not attack again. Ask Georgia. Ask Chechnya. Ask Kazakhstan. The fuck? Just the same fucking... No wonder he was at a fucking meeting with Ron Paul and Tulsi Gabbard. Jesus Christ. And by the way, defending Sergei Lavrov quotes in this that were worse than the way Woodward quoted him. All right, so let me go to this next one. This is probably the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard as an analogy for Russia and Ukraine.
Because he goes, look, this goes back to 2014. And so I'm watching this and I got like so excited for a minute. Like I was like, yes, it does go back to 2014.
Because he thinks there was a coup and all this stuff, and that poor Ukraine with their Russian sock puppet Yanukovych, which he'll never mention his name, by the way. You'll notice these motherfuckers never talk about Yanukovych, Poroshenko, and then into Zelensky and the process that they got from one to the other. They'll never name Yanukovych and what they're talking about because they can't defend Yanukovych, so they do this kind of like Ukraine as if it was now or then. The same thing with Trump doing the whole like Obama gave them sheets and I gave them javelins. Like, that's because it was a different fucking president.
Thank you, Donald Trump. And then it goes back to 2014 when Putin took Crimea and Obama let him have it. He just let him have it. Never would have happened on my watch, but Obama gave Putin Ukraine. And you're like, no, dude, that's not. Just go back 2 months earlier in that same year. The problem wasn't that Obama gave Putin Ukraine. The problem was that Obama took Ukraine away from Vladimir Putin.
Did you hear that? Obama took Ukraine away from Vladimir Putin 2 months before they invaded in 2014. Just let that gel for a second.
Played on your show, and you played with Tulsi Gabbard. The director of national intelligence has sat right here where I'm sitting and watched Gideon Rose explain to Stephen Colbert.
Right. You mean the woman who was at Ron Paul's fucking birthday party with you and you all are in line with these fucking Kremlin talking points that are materially lies. And also the CIA and the intelligence community in the United States is behind every awful thing in the world until they're your fucking friend that you go to birthday parties with, and then they can be trusted. Just wait.
Exactly what we're doing here. Russia, as Gideon Rose, the editor of Foreign Affairs magazine, said.
The editor of Foreign Affairs magazine. Give it to us, big boy.
Russia is Batman. Ukraine is Robin. We're stealing Robin away from Batman.
Yeah. And apparently, in order to get Robin back, Batman sends in his friends to rape Robin's relatives. For real. This is just goofy. And I have no doubt that this motherfucker will say that Bucha didn't happen. Like, there's no question. He'll go, that's media fabrication and blah, blah. You can believe his bullshit half-ass story about Boris Johnson because he's got sources that when he looks them up will turn out to be bullshit, for the record. Because the delegates that were at the meeting in Istanbul are all quoted as saying, we had already told them to go pound sand when we came home before Boris Johnson told us not to trust them. We know. Batman and fucking Robin? I had no idea Robin was only with Batman so that he could do what he was told, lest his relatives get raped and murdered. Seriously, like, the dumbest analogy I have ever heard about this entire thing. Like, it's goofy beyond comprehension. Fuck Dave Smith's lying bullshit. And fuck Joe Rogan for guzzling this garbage across the desk going, wow, I never really thought of it that way. Not even knowing what fucking Article 5 is. If you don't know what Article 5 is, you shouldn't be letting this asshole shovel, like, Tulsi Gabbard's fucking talking points down your empty fucking gullet. Oh my God. Who's Alfred in this? Belarus, I guess. Holy shit. And of course, I guess in this whole thing, we're the Penguin. Some shit.
That's what the Maidan Revolution was. That's why the USAID and the NED poured $100 million into this street protest, right? And so they overthrew.
Also a lie. Like, okay, hold on. I'm going to bring this up. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, here we go. This is from RFK Jr. is where a lot of this came from, but it wasn't even $100 million. It was $5 billion, a $5 billion investment. In an interview with Tucker Carlson, Robert Kennedy Jr. stated that the U.S. through USAID invested $5 billion in Ukraine for the 2014 Maidan under the pretense of promoting, quote, freedom and democracy. He emphasized this funding followed the overthrow of democratically elected government that had refused to take sides, which is nonsense. Again, Yanukovych and Paul Manafort were working together. Dive into what kind of person Paul Manafort is and the fact that he arranged for snipers to shoot people in the Revolution of Dignity. And this motherfucker knows nothing about that. Or will, if he knows anything about it, he knows this much and he will ignore it. He will just dismiss it outright. Let's see. Recurring pro-Kremlin disinformation narratives about the 2014 protests in Kyiv falsely portray as a coup led by the U.S. and the West, about the West support for alleged Nazi regime. Yeah, we've heard all that part. Framing all popular protests against Russia's interests as a foreign-led color revolution is something they do all the time, right? Yeah, Detector Media reports that Russian state channels have long pushed such false narratives that Euromaidan was a U.S.-sponsored coup using relentless repetition and flooding across multiple platforms and languages. Disinformation has been reinforced by Russian officials, including Putin and Lavrov, who repeated it just 2 months ago in an interview, once again in an interview with Tucker Carlson. That's what they're referring to. And I want to remind you that these guys think that the CIA is behind every bad thing that's ever happened, and it's obvious and true. And the reason they know this is because they read it in American newspapers, which are free to report it. But the Russians have never been engaged in any of this kind of behavior. They're clearly the good guys in this, and poor Lavrov is always being misquoted.
The government, and then a bunch of the former Ukrainian prime ministers started floating out that we should tear up the Sevastopol lease in Crimea, because, you know, this is Russia's only year-long warm water naval port. They've always had it. This was their agreement. They had like a 50-year lease or something like that. But after the West backed a coup that overthrew the government and put in a pro-Western government, they started talking big, like, well, maybe we'll tear up that lease. And so Vladimir Putin went, no.
So that's the idea. I thought it was about NATO expansion. Is there NATO expansion in any of that? Apparently, we put a coup d'etat in there to replace Yanukovych with Poroshenko, of all fucking people, who both agreed that the country should move more towards Europe, which is what really was bugging Vladimir Putin. Not NATO at all, but the commercial indications of it and the lack of those resources, because this is a resource war. This is raping and pillaging the old school way.
No, I'll just take it. And that was like, so anyway, so he...
And you're cool with that. You're cool with that. So they had corrupted their government. They kick out this guy who was a puppet for Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin had been undermining their legal system and their government system for years. They finally get rid of the fucker. And then they go, you know what? We're going to get rid of the leases. This is his argument, not mine. We're going to get rid of the lease that they have because it's illegitimate, because they've been fucking with us this whole time. And it's justified that Putin invade because he's going to lose his lease on this territory. So explain to me how England should have invaded Hong Kong and stolen it back after the 99-year lease was up then. They would have been justified according to this motherfucker.
Goes back to that, doesn't go back a few months earlier, and then misses the entire point. That
Which is not the point and is a lie, and he's making it up. Yeah, Dave is full of, like, blazingly full of shit on this, and is trying so fucking hard. And he's like a pig in shit right now because he's talking to Joe Rogan, who is stunningly misinformed about all this. Knows nothing about the Russia-NATO founding agreement of 97, knows nothing about the trilateral agreement about the denuclearization of Ukraine and the security guarantees that we gave him before, knows nothing about CSTO expansion that NATO was in response to. I mean, arguably, the biggest expansion in NATO was caused directly by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Georgia and Chechnya. That's why they did it. They're like, holy fuck, this bullshit about we're your peaceful neighbor is a bunch of garbage. They're going to take back all their areas, and then they're going to become a nuclear power Mother Russia again, and then they're going to attack the rest of us like they'd originally planned. You know how we know? Because they fucking said so.
No, so because like the point is that it's not just like me being like, oh, I wish Donald Trump was into the same books I'm into or something like that. The point is that
it's dumber than that. Okay, anyways, Batman and Rapist. They get to that point. And then we'll jump ahead to, because it's the same stupid shit. It's so lazy. 103, 104, 105, 107. 8, we're about 9 something, 8:52 something. There we go. It was 9:30 was this one. Okay.
Yes. There's a lot of shenanigans. There's a good record of shenanigans, and there's the reality.
Oh, he's talking about Hunter Biden and the Bidens in Ukraine.
I think there's a lot of speculation, and there's a lot of consideration about mail-in ballots. There's a lot of shenanigans.
Okay, and voting.
There's a good record of.
They go off. This is the part where most people know where they went off on. They shit on Trump for his fixation on the 2020 was stolen, and they go after him for this. And so they're getting a lot of points for this. But understand that this is kind of why I showed you the entire Trump, why the rallies, because they would show little bits of it, and people would go, "Oh, that was crazy." With the assumption is the rest of it must have been fine, or that they would just be showing you this little piece. Or they show you one part that's good, and they're like, the rest of it must have been good because this part was good. Where it was fucking insane and full of garbage and lies and all this other stuff. And the crazy stuff was indicative of the whole fucking thing. And the moments of truth were basically just borrowed things to give evidence to things that, to make connections or equations pay off that don't. Okay. Same thing here. And that it's like impossible not to jump around because it's 3 hours. I wish they would cut this down into their own clips, but holy shit, I would have missed all this garbage. Here you go.
Shenanigans, and there's the reality of any kind of electronics can be hacked.
No, I agree with all of that. I'm just saying, like, once you've made these statements and your administration is in.
Answer.
No, I remember. It was one of the most interesting parts of your.
Oh, by the way, this is also Rogan stealing my point, which I've been making for fucking years, which is that if these details are true about the stolen election or your relationship with Epstein or whatever, like you there's no way you don't know the details of this if you're innocent and you can go, I wasn't there, I was fucking here. I was never with Epstein on these kind of things because I was at home and I have proof, and I was, I wasn't with Stormy Daniels, I was in this other place. I've got witnesses, and he never does. And if you did, you would whip those fucking things out, right? Like you'd have them on the tip of your tongue all the time because it's current, it's important.
Your podcast with him was like, when you asked him about that, it was like he really didn't have anything to back it up.
If that was you or if that was me, I mean, if there was some reason why I knew that they did something and I could give you all the facts, I would have that ready for anybody. Because for 4 fucking years, they've been telling him he's crazy for questioning the election.
Yeah.
So after 4 years, I'd have a fucking tight 10 minutes on the election where I could just rattle off at you and rock your world with it. Like these are the facts, Jack.
Well, there's a.
But he can't because they don't. And he's a weakling. Yeah, Jamie, pull up Hal's point. Right, exactly. Play that clip of Hal Sparks making fun of me from before where I ripped his excellent point. Okay, so here's 112. Where are we? Okay, so that was this business.
Treason. I think John Brennan did commit treason when he armed Al-Qaeda in Syria, and Obama as well, with the rest of Obama and John Kerry and Brennan. I think that's literally treason, right? Giving aid and comfort to the enemy in a...
Which is what Dave Smith is doing on his show all the time right now. Aid and comfort to Russia in their attack on Ukraine, period, end of fucking story. I mean, he's excusing everything they're doing. He's supporting every propaganda wing that they have coming out. Ron Paul, Tucker Carlson, Tulsi Gabbard. He's just carrying water for them. He's excusing all the awful they've done as like, well, what do you expect? That's aid and comfort. This is, by his words, this is treasonous talk on his behalf. I think it's just him being an asshole, but this is his standard, not mine.
Time of war. What Obama and Comey and Clapper did to Donald Trump...
Boo fucking you. Oh, this is the whole Russiagate thing.
Is they framed him for treason.
No, they didn't. 32 fucking people got indicted in the Mueller investigation. A bunch of them Russians and a bunch of them people in Trump's transition team and in his cabinet who were coordinating with the people that got indicted in Russia. You dipshit. It's just so fucking lazy.
So what do you call that exactly?
Right.
I call it you selectively reading Bill Barr's summation of the Mueller report and ignoring the reality of it entirely. Pissing, going, anybody that Trump pardoned is innocent. Instead of, he pardoned the people that could roll up on him. He promised them pardons at the time, or friends would run interference for them so that the next Republican that was in there would get them out. So keep your fucking mouth shut and you'll be rewarded on the other side with cash.
Naming the sitting U.S. president. Now, I guess Obama can't be guilty of the sitting U.S. president, but he was guilty of the candidate and the president-elect. So, because he was out of there by the time Trump comes in. But what Tulsi Gabbard released that I thought was very interesting, which I had never seen before, and we did, I don't remember, was last year or the year before, but there was one episode that me and you talked a lot about Russiagate and got like pretty deep into it.
Right.
Yeah, it was just as deep as this. You can well imagine the total mismashing of facts and fabrications to just grease that lube that narrative up and shove it up Joe's ass so he can grunt in the background while Dave's giving it to him.
But what Tulsi released, which I've never seen before, was that there was a consensus amongst the intelligence agencies after the 2016.
All right. Tell me that you have watched other people's bits like Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld and other assholes like that and not actually read the stuff. This is horseshit. That there was no consensus that the Russians, interfered in our election. Yeah, there was. The consensus was they tried to hack the machines. They weren't successful. And if they were successful, it wasn't enough to change the numbers of votes. But they tried every other route they possibly could. And they definitely tried to manipulate the electorate with fake Facebook groups, both pro and con issues, getting Americans to fight back and forth. It was an active measure. And that's exactly what the report said. It's exactly what the Republican Senate report said. It's the conclusion the Durham report came to. And it's exactly what the documents that Tulsi Gabbard put out say.
Election. So this is Hillary Clinton's lost, but Barack Obama's still president and Donald Trump is the president-elect. And they had consensus that there was no meaningful interference.
See how he plays with that? Just lies. Just a fucking lie. No. There was meaningful interference. There was consensus that there was meaningful interference across everywhere. Directly that. They were just unable to change votes. That's where there wasn't consensus. That's why the focus of the report that came out of the Obama administration was on them trying to manipulate the electorate, not the vote count. That's why this Tulsi Gabbard referral to the DOJ is going fucking nowhere. It's bullshit. The reason nobody's going to get perp walked is because they know it's nonsense. Anybody who reads it knows it's nonsense. Shut the fuck up. This is just lazy.
In the election.
And I know I'm going a little bit long, but I hope you guys can hang. because there's only a couple more pieces that I chopped out of this, but shit.
And then there is this one meeting with Obama that she points to where this is where the consensus changes. And they had a new threat assessment written that actually we believe Russia interfered in.
Yeah. Can you just, like, this is the dumbest fucking take on this that anybody could possibly have. You have to be criminally fucking stupid to think that's what went down. They met. Is there a consensus that they hacked machines and changed votes? No. Some people think it was possible, but the vast majority say no. Is there a consensus they tried to fuck with the election through Facebook and all these other stuff? Absolutely. Okay, well, people are going to need to know that. So write up a report on what the consensus says. It would be a crime if they had written a report where there wasn't consensus on vote tampering and wrote a whole thing like the Russians broke into voting machines and changed the numbers. That would have been a crime. God damn, this dude is stupid.
The election, but it was total bullshit. They've never been able to back it up for shit. You know, they find minor little things here or there, but nothing that...
Minor little things here or there. That's the vote changing, the attempts to hack machines. See how he's playing with both? See how he's acting like we're talking about the same thing? Notice how he never actually brings up the format of the interference. What do you mean by interference? Materially, through the media and through manipulation of voting blocks and creating fake groups and all that kind of stuff, or actually hacking machines? Notice he just conflates the two and walks away. And when you say one did happen and the other didn't, or vice versa, then you're lying about the other. And that's treasonous. He thinks you should be killed, that Obama should be killed, that Brennan should be murdered for this report. According to Tulsi Gabbard, the chick he was hanging out with at Ron Paul's fucking birthday party last month.
Demonstrates that, like, the results of this were flipped. And then they...
See? Notice that part?
They ran with that for 3 years after.
Sorry, what did they do? What did they run with?
They find minor little things here or there, but nothing that demonstrates that, like, the results of this were flipped.
See that? You guys see that? He's mixing the vote hacking and the media interference, the social media manipulation, the fake groups, all that kind of stuff, creating pro and anti-Hillary groups and having them show up on the same street corner and fight about shit, fomenting the most extreme voices in both parties to try and create division, all that stuff. He's overlaying those two things and acting like if you call attention to one, which happened, and you acknowledge the other may have happened, but there's no consensus on it, and it certainly wasn't enough to actually change the votes, that somehow you're lying about the thing that you're not saying, and the thing that you are saying doesn't exist. It's just straight up manipulation. I mean, again, imagine if you will, Joe Rogan. You're sitting there, and some dude is sitting across from you, and he goes, "Dude, this." There's this guy, and he's like going around telling everybody, like, about, the motivations behind peace deals, and he's telling everybody the kind of, like, inside scoop on, reports within, and then fucking last month, he's fucking having dinner with the head of the CIA. He's at a fucking birthday party with the head of the DNI. What do you think the reaction from Joe would be in that situation? Oh, fuck, man. Fuck, if you said that to Dave Smith about somebody, he wouldn't even know it was him. If you described Dave Smith's last month to him without naming, like, what countries he's talking about, he'd go, "That dude's a fucking narc."
And then they ran with that for 3 years after.
No, they didn't. Nobody for 3 years was saying that they, during Trump's term, that the votes were flipped by Russia. Just garbage. Just nonsense. No. I'll take it back. Somebody, I'm sure, there's 8 billion people on the fucking planet, and there's 340 million Americans. I'm sure somebody said it. That was not the argument. The conventional argument amongst every Democrat was the Russians fucked with the electorate through social media and fake posts and fake news stories and shit like that, and they manipulated the electorate that way specifically. And he knows it.
But there's not a record of that meeting, right?
She just released a bunch of documents with records of that meeting.
No, but what I'm saying is like the actual discussions. It's not on record.
Now, I think they have. She had a few.
Do they have to do that?
No, she had. She had a couple different documents there that were like had notes from the meeting.
Did she now?
I think one had minutes of the meeting.
You think? You just accuse someone of a hanging crime, and you think...
But no, you're not listening to an audio tape of it.
No, you're not.
Like, we don't have like a Nixon, talking about the gays and the Jews or something.
Which, by the way, I would like to remind you that they think that's funny, and also they were defending Nixon as the most popular president ever. Never mind the fact that he's wandering around on tape talking about gays and Jews, drunk, yelling at paintings. But, the deep state got him.
Like
I'm
that.
just trying to, strongman or steelman it. I'm saying, would it be possible that Obama knew something that he could relay to them in the meeting?
Uh-huh.
Be an interesting thing to find. That'd be interesting for a court proceeding.
But even if that...
A court proceeding. No, it wouldn't. You wouldn't even have to say it. It's top secret human intel, if that's what he's talking about. That Obama knew some piece of intel. By the way, so would Brennan. So would the other people in his intelligence group that was talking about it. Where do you think he gets that information from? Do you think Obama was on a fucking wiretap, you tit?
That's the case. It's still
This gets dumber as it goes on.
doesn't align with the known facts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is
a
problem.
Yeah. Well, it's not. Look, I think we'll see what comes of this.
Nothing. They'll have indictments right after we see Hunter Biden's fucking laptop. Who's got the laptop, by the way? Chat room. Who's currently holding on to the laptop? Anybody? Who's got it right this week? I forget who was hanging on to it last time I asked. I think CSL had it for a bit, but atrocious at every game. Yeah, it doesn't exist. It's the blind IT. No. Oh, okay. Thank you, Kareen. Kareen has it. Be careful with it, okay? Because it's very hard. It's irreplaceable since it doesn't exist.
Which I'm not betting on anything coming of this.
Why not? If it's so cut and dry and you're so sure that they committed hanging offenses, why wouldn't anything?
But there is something interesting. Look, there's a lot of things that happen after that. The real, to me, the true outrage of Russiagate is that they didn't stop after he won the presidency.
What the fuck are you talking about? Sorry, somebody commits rape and then they become mayor. We're supposed to not go after them for rape? Is that the idea? Dude, he's popular. He's more popular than the other person in this coin toss between two people, even though he wasn't. He lost by 3 million votes, to Hillary Clinton. He won through the Electoral College, but he's popular. So, you can't go after a popular guy for being guilty of rape, right? Right, Dave? The minute you get elected, it's like you've been washed in the blood of the Lamb. Everything you got is washed away. All your sins are gone.
It's still pretty outrageous to try to frame a candidate. It's still pretty outrageous for Hillary Clinton to have
They weren't framing him, you dumb motherfucker. Citation needed. They didn't frame him. Read the Mueller report. Look how many people were actually indicted. The only reason he skated was because Bill Barr kept them from looking into the money, which was, if you have means, motive, and opportunity, the means he absolutely has. The motive is money, and the opportunity is there. But if you're not allowed to even look for the motive, then you can't establish a court case. That's why they couldn't proceed. and he was a sitting president. And like Bill Barr, like there was protecting him at every turn. But making sure they couldn't look into motive, which was a financial one, even if it was blackmail. Even if he was being blackmailed, that's a financial motive.
Like opposition research and use an actual, Russian spy and a British spy to do it.
Yeah.
But
Also, no. The idea that you can't use spies or hire private people, because again, the fact that they're spies is one thing, but like Christopher Steele, I think his last official act for the British government was fucking Ivanka. Okay, so 123. Let's go to the next one. I've got 2 more breaks, and then that'll be it for tonight because there's just so much bullshit in this. So 122, 120. I'll lead into this because I always caught these things a little bit. Like I got the number a little bit later than whatever. This is Russia as innocent victim, I think.
The entire media would have been like, see, that's proof. Right. We've been telling you he's in with Vladimir Putin. When he went to Helsinki, I think, aside from this week, I think that was the last time the two of them were face to face, was in Finland.
Oh, yeah. When Trump looked like he just had a colonoscopy and laid it off on our intelligence community, he's like, I wouldn't trust our CIA. I'd trust Vladimir Putin every fucking time.
2017.
Think about that for a second, just for real. With everything the CIA has ever done, but also go watch Charlie Wilson's War. Go look up the International Criminal Court's records on the Russians in Afghanistan, like fucking walking pregnant women off of rooftops, slitting their bellies open in Africa. This motherfucker's like, those are my boys.
Could be wrong about that, but I think that was the last time the two of them were together. And there was this big thing, I don't know if you remember this, but it was a big deal at the time, was that Donald Trump said, they asked him, they were like, hey, your intelligence agencies are saying that Vladimir Putin interfered in the election. Did you ask him about that? And Trump goes, yeah, I asked him about that. And he told me he didn't interfere in the election. And I believe him. And then they made a huge thing about this on...
Yeah, because that's fucking crazy.
Foreign soil. Donald Trump says he believes Vladimir Putin over his own intelligence agency. The men and women who protect us every day.
The men and women who protect us.
Yeah, fuck these people, right? It's like the cops and the National Guard. I mean, fuck those people. If they're doing what we want them to, they're fucking heroes. But the second we don't like it, man, the CIA. Every one of the fucking stars at the CIA is a bunch of fucking traitorous assholes who got what was coming to them, right, Joe? Again, one of the reasons why we know about the CIA's shenanigans is because we live in the kind of country where you're allowed to find out about your intelligence organization's bullshit through your representative government. You have the ability to do that. And the reason why there seems to be no analog in the rest of the world is because nobody else holds their intelligence community accountable. The Russians fucking applaud them for it. And then the rest of it is the CIA, even to defend themselves, can't say anything because it's covert for a reason. And so you can spackle the gaps in it, in your intel, with any conspiracy you fucking want. So they make it an easy target. To the point where it's a fucking joke. Here's how you know that the CIA hasn't been responsible for as much shit as you think they are. It's because these assholes can giggle about it. It's just like fucking Alex Jones's shit about like, there's a big group that runs the whole fucking world, and they kill anybody that gets in their way. I'm like, well, then why are you alive, you dumb motherfucker? Why are you alive? If that's true, there's only 2 reasons you could still be alive. One, you're lying and you're full of shit. You're making it up. It's not true. And the other is, you work for them. And look at this motherfucker grinning about, yeah, they protect us, fucking CIA. Hey, asshole, how about this? How about you go down to CIA headquarters and ask them to tell you about the agents that have stars on the wall that they can tell you about. Sit there. And then as they tell you how they fucking died, how they were tortured by the Soviets back in the day, or they were killed by the Iranians, or their fucking plane was shot out of the air, or they were fucking, they were fucking disemboweled because we don't make deals with traitors or with terrorists. Grin like that. I mean, fucking gross. And if you have a problem with the CIA, you should go lay a fucking wreath at the grave of Jimmy Carter. Because no one curtailed their actions more than Jimmy Carter did. And you hung him out to fucking dry. You mocked him his entire post-presidency. You made a joke out of his presidency. He created the inspector general's offices in everything to make sure that the American tax dollars were being spent right, and he put limitations on CIA funding and what they could do and who they had to report to. And all these fuckers will ever do is dunk on the CIA because they make an easy target, because you don't hear about their successes and you know their failures because that's the kind of country you live in, and you shit on Jimmy Carter, who recognized that the CIA needed limitations on it. And he did something about it. And you make him a joke. He's a punchline. And he was a good man, a good, decent man who tried his hardest. And as much as they'll shit on Reagan, they'll go right back to liking him tomorrow.
And women who frame the sitting president.
Framing him.
And so
That's hilarious. What a trap.
But so that's that.
Yeah, the CIA and were framing and trapping Donald Trump. That's their argument. Not the Democrats, I guess, but the deep state who, and all the CIA guys are secretly commies or some shit. Like, it's so fucking weird. I don't even know how they create this idea, but the idea is Russia's innocent, CIA is guilty, except Tulsi Gabbard is trustworthy. Okay, now, the last slice of dipshittery for the evening. The fall of the Soviet Union.
And that seemed to have been the priority of almost no one in power.
Okay, here it is. Hold on. I have to back up.
You could, it doesn't matter if you live in Brazil or wherever. The most important thing in the history of the world.
Okay, here we go.
Rational adults who had wisdom waiting about all of it. And something that really, it's like, well, I'm told, I'm not an expert. You're just a comedian. It's like,
No. First of all, nobody's just a comedian. I'm a comedian. I don't know what the fuck you and Joe are anymore. You might have used to have done stand-up, but sit the fuck down with your I'm just a comedian stuff. That's a humble brag you don't earn anymore. Also, the whole, nobody tells you to sit down and shut up just because you're a comedian, except other people on the right who are just mad if you go off the res. This has, you being an ignorant son of a bitch has nothing to do with the fact that you're not funny. So this is Dave Smith. So everybody's been talking about the impact Dave Smith has had on the conversation because he criticized Trump, and everybody jumped on his bandwagon all of a sudden because they don't understand all the rest of the garbage he's pushing, using that as cover. This goes well beyond wolf in sheep's clothing to just active bullshitter. So check this out. This is 1991, the fall of the Soviet Union.
And something that really, it's like, well, I'm told, I'm not an expert. You're just a comedian. It's like, leave this to the serious experts here.
No, nobody's saying leave it to the serious experts in conversation. Nobody's saying that. Shut the fuck up. And if they are, they're calling themselves an expert at the time. He's talking about people like Douglas Murray and people he's had debates and arguments with. I'm not saying that at all. How about this? Let's settle it. I can't say nobody says anything or everybody says anything because they never work in a pluralistic country like ours. Here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying shut your fucking mouth, you're just a comedian. I never would say that as an actual comedian. As somebody who gives a shit. I think everybody should be able to talk their piece on it. But don't pretend you get to the front of the line because you have this nihilistic, libertarian, bullshitter, like Alex Jones adjacent podcast that gives you more credibility on these issues than anybody else. For all the like, I can't believe Joe Rogan is this dumb about these fucking issues that happened in this podcast. Dave Smith is equally dumb about them. He's just speaking as if he knows. And he doesn't. He picks and chooses what facts he decides he likes ahead of time. He hobnobs with the very people he would say it's suspect if you hung around with him. He literally spent time saying Bob Woodward was in naval fucking intelligence, and then jumps to, I was at a birthday party with Tulsi Gabbard next week, and we're supposed to, last week, and we're supposed to go, oh, well you're you, man. Just because you're hanging out with the head of the defense, intelligence agency, that's or the coordinating intelligence agent for the whole fucking country. Just because you're at a birthday party and hanging out with her and you guys are on a first name basis and all three of you are on a fucking phone tree, that's different. But the fact that Bob Woodward served in the Navy in a comms setting on a boat means he can't be trusted. And this bullshit about his first story out of the gate is to take down the president, it's like you get to jumpstart your own fucking bullshit conspiracy, you asshole. Fuck me. Just garbage. Okay, so let's go back to 1991, the fall of the Soviet Union, which, by the way, even though it's bullshit, the whole no expansion of NATO idea, that agreement was made with the USSR. Russia is a different country with different borders. And there are a bunch of other countries that very well may decide, hey, I'm no longer with those guys, and they have a tendency to take over places. Like, that's how we ended up in the USSR in the first fucking place, and we're not Russians. We're Dagestani, we're Chechens, we're fucking Arabs. We would rather stay, or we're basically Arab and Chinese, which is what Kazakhstan is. We're not Russians. And these motherfuckers tend to try to they want to take these back. We may end up joining you at some point. And there was no deal with USSR about not expanding. That was it's an apocryphal story anyways. But even if it did exist, the USSR doesn't exist anymore. You don't have to uphold fucking deals with countries that don't exist anymore. It's just fucking stupid.
But the thing that's so goddamn frustrating and
yeah, it's so goddamn frustrating that we got all these deals with the Czech Republic, but we're not upholding our deals we made with Czechoslovakia.
Just profoundly reckless is that, look, like when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991.
This is going to be fucking painful.
And you could go back before that, but let's just take that as a point to start. It should have been obvious to any if there really was this class of experts, I would be so happy to turn this over to them. Let me go tell jokes at the mothership. That's what I'm supposed to do, not this. Fine. But the thing is, if there were serious, rational adults who had wisdom way beyond what some shit-talking comedian knows about, which there should be.
By the way, this is the fallback defense that the shit-talking comedian or just a comedian, and I should know I'm just a comedian. I have to do this. Where that Jimmy Dore uses this fallback, so does fucking. It's false modesty is what it is. It's dismissive of I know more. It's their way of saying I know more than you, and I'm just a fucking dude, which they don't. It's an assertion of expertise based on existence.
And then they would have recognized that the most important priority in the history of the world is the relationship between DC and Moscow. There's never been anything more important than that. And that doesn't even matter whether you're a Russian or an American.
Wait. What does this motherfucker think happened in 91?
You could, it doesn't matter if you live in Brazil or wherever. The most important thing in the history of the world is these two capitals that have 90% of the world's nuclear weapons between the two of them get along. Okay, this is the most important thing. This could end our species if they don't. So, let's make sure they do. And that seemed to have been the priority of almost no one in power.
All right. Horseshit. Horseshit. The idea that, and that's the quote, almost no one in power. Hold on. Let me see if I can get a good run of details on this. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. What was the engagement posture of the U.S. after the fall of the USSR? Did we step back or assist? I don't know. Let's go with that. Okay. Okay. Let's start in, yeah, here we go. 1991, when the Soviet Union falls, what do we do? Okay. Immediate post-Soviet engagement, 91 to the mid-90s. Economic and political assistance. The non-nuclear cooperative threat reduction program. U.S. funded dismantling of Soviet nuclear weapons in Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Belarus. Billions in aid funneled through the IMF, the World Bank, U.S. programs to support Russia's transition to a market economy. Advisory support. U.S. economists and agencies work closely with Yeltsin's government, controversially backing shock therapy privatization. That was one of the issues there, but that was the engagement. Security partnerships. Former Warsaw Pact states and ex-Soviet republics receive U.S. training, military cooperation, and eventual NATO partnership for peace agreements in 1994. U.S. forces downsized in Europe, but did not withdraw. They repositioned toward Eastern Europe and the Balkans. Democratic institutional support. U.S. NGOs, National Endowment for Democracy, USAID, funded media, civic, election initiatives in Russia and across the post-Soviet space. Expansion. NATO enlargement. 99, that was after the 97 founding agreement. Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic joined. 2004, the Baltic states joined. Direct involvement in conflicts. The Balkans Wars, Bosnia and Kosovo, U.S.-led NATO interventions in the 1990s, Afghanistan post 9/11, the U.S. military presence in Central Asia, continued aid and economic leverage, Clinton's Partnership for Peace aimed to integrate post-Soviet states into Euro-Atlantic institutions, large aid packages continued through the 90s, the strategic posture. It was not a withdrawal. The U.S. didn't retreat after the Cold War. They poured money, expertise, and political capital into Russia and its neighbors. They assisted in nuclear disarmament, democracy promotion, and market transitions. They didn't fuck off and not call. Like, both George H.W. Bush and Clinton both had, like, the phone lines open the entire time during this whole transition. They did reach out. This motherfucker thinks we just, like, stepped back and let Russia stew. It's just dumb. Like, listen to this. Listen to his description of what happened.
Nuclear weapons between the two of them. Get along. Okay, you know, like, this is the most important thing. This could end our species if they don't. So, like, let's make sure they do. And that seemed to have been the priority of almost no one in power.
Almost no one in power. It's like everybody in both administrations, Republican and Democrat, during that period of time. Especially this guy right here. The 97 to 2007. Hold on, back up here. Allow. Look at Brookings. Yeah, you go. The trilateral agreement. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, this is standard. Hold on. Scoot over, you crazy thing. There you go. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Ukraine had the world's third largest nuclear arsenal on its territory. You're welcome. Nailed it. When Ukrainian and Russian negotiations on removing these weapons from Ukraine appeared to break down in September of 1993, the U.S. government engaged in a trilateral process with Ukraine and Russia. The result was the trilateral statement, signed in January of 1994 by Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. Signed by Russia, Ukraine, and the United States. All three. 1994, they signed the trilateral agreement. What was in, Dave, Joe? What was in the trilateral agreement, you dumb motherfuckers? The result was the trilateral statement signed in January 1994, under which Ukraine agreed to transfer their nuclear warheads to Russia for elimination. In return, Ukraine would receive security assurances from the United States, Russia, and Britain, compensation for the economic value of the highly enriched uranium in the warheads, which could be blended down and converted into fuel for nuclear reactors, and assistance from the United States in dismantling the missiles, missile silos, bombers, and nuclear infrastructure in its territory. Stephen Pfeiffer recounts the history of this unique negotiation and describes the key lessons learned. Nobody even fucking cared. Like, they broke down, and then they fucking, like, nobody did fucking anything, bro. And then Joe's sitting across the table going, my fucking wow. Dude, that's crazy. We signed an agreement like he's talking about signing with Russia before. You know what they did? They invaded Chechnya, Georgia, and then Ukraine. They forced their other satellite states to join CSTO at the barrel of a fucking gun. CSTO is the Russian version of NATO. They were expanding first. They were trying to take back their former territories, violating their sovereignty when they wouldn't do it. Chechnya was a warning. Vladimir Putin got into office by blowing up like apartment buildings and blaming it on the Chechens. Mm-hmm. September 1999, a series of explosions hit 4 apartment blocks in Russia in Bryansk, Moscow, and Volgodonsk, killing more than 300, injuring more than 1,000. The bombings, together with the invasion of Dagestan, triggered the Second Chechen War, the handling of the crisis by Vladimir Putin, who was prime minister at the time, boosted his popularity and helped him attain the presidency within a few months. Tail wagging the dog. This motherfucker has no idea about any of that. Vladimir Putin is an innocent little flower in a sea of dictators, and he's just in a world where you gotta be tough, people. He's never done anything that people didn't force him to do.
A few exceptions to that, but almost nobody went like, so again, my point.
Almost nobody. Just think about that. Just the flat out lie. Almost nobody. The entire American government. A good portion of American businesses who wanted in on this new market. According to this fuckwad, nobody even called. Nobody even contacted Yeltsin. He couldn't get his calls returned, I guess.
Point is, poisoning the relationship between a president who wants peace with Russia is on the level of launching a war in Iraq. I mean, it's that bad of a thing to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully it does.
By the way, he's jumping ahead to Trump, and apparently Trump just wants peace with Russia, not capitulation, and was setting up Ukraine to be handed to Russia.
Doesn't get to that point, but it is a profoundly reckless thing to do.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, this is about the time they both get bored of their own bullshit. And I think it's a good time to call it, if I may. Chat room, thanks for putting up with me being a little bit spicier than usual. But, I mean, this shit has to be addressed. It isn't just that, like, there's so much focus on the fact that Rogan and Dave shit are waking up to the fact that Trump is full of beans. Right? It's not just that. Like, that's what's getting all the news. But what's the rest of this fucking 3-hour hate fest is stacked bullshit on top of ignorant cruelty. Both of these dumb motherfuckers. And there's no excuse. There's no excuse for Joe to be such a fucking simp to this dickhead. And there's no excuse to let somebody go there and just, like, blend facts and fabrications together into a fucking soup and make you fucking guzzle it. No. Bullshit. Dave Smith is a liar. Joe Rogan is intellectually and morally inadequate to the task of the conversation he's having on his show. Other than that, I have no opinion. You guys are awesome, and I will see you later. Have a great night. I've been spicy, and you've been delicious. And this goes out to Joe and to Smitty over there. Bullshit. We're gonna raid Boston Brian now because we love him. Everybody send him my love.
The screen glows bright with a crooked smile. Words spill out.
You know it. I'm gonna leave it up while I'm bringing him up.
No style.
Actually, CSL, could you raid him for me? If he's up already on Twitch?
A handshake, a lie, a blank, cold stare. Puppets dance.
I gotta say,
Strings are tight. Shadows whisper.
got it? I just want to make sure we can get him. Excellent. Thank you, brother. Love you all. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else.
This is some bullshit. We see through it. This is some bullshit. Can't undo it. Say it loud. We won't quit. This is some bullshit. Paper thin truths that crumble like ash. Golden thrones built on stolen cash. We raise our fists.
Thanks, Liberal Dan. Look at you. Thank you guys so much. Love you. See you tomorrow.
Getting old. Static hums, the wires ignite. Truth's a bomb, we're ready to fight. This is some bullshit. We see through it. This is some bullshit. Can't undo it. Say it loud. We won't quit. This is some bullshit.
Bullshit! Bullshit!
You think you know something about everything, don't you?
Bullshit!
He's a genius, see?
Oh, hello there! Negative function.
Weekdays for